Here we have a lovely Leviathan's opening screen. So apologies for the late start. In fact, it's a slightly late start, even judging by my tweet. But on top of my difficulty getting home tonight, I had some difficulty getting the stream started. So I think we'll probably have a little bit of a hiccup while we get host mode resolved. We should be good to go in just a moment, probably by the time the game finishes loading. So, in case that didn't come through while I was hosting, I definitely apologize for the late start tonight. I know there have been a few of those, and part of it is there are some things that I'm working on off-cast, which I am not ready to talk about. And then I also think the weather's starting to get to me a little bit. It's definitely getting quite a bit hotter, and it just means that things have been hang on. Oh, for God's sake. I blew this, didn't I? All right. Sorry, guys. I thought Bradbury was out. I don't know. I suppose more delays are just part of the night. Anyways, I am really looking forward to getting back to Stellaris. I wanted to play a little bit during the week, but I ran into you know what? I'm actually a little curious whether or not it will. Yeah, it won't. Drat. All right. One last try. Yeah, I wanted to play a little bit more during the week, like privately during the week, because I know I had some other stuff from the GOG sale that I wanted to cover. There we go. I really thought the Bradbury patch was out. Anyways, but I did need to. Ooh. You know what? Let's just risk it. Why are there two? All right, well, let's see what happens. So, I think, honestly, the best way for us to go about this, there's a couple of thoughts that I have in terms of how to re-enter the game, because I think one thing that I sort of hope happens with Stellaris, and particularly with the people who are watching this this playthrough, I kind of hope that this will encourage you guys to check out some of the other Paradox games, games such as Crusader Kings and Europa Universalis, Hearts of Iron 4, and if you're particularly brave, maybe Victoria 2, which is the oldest and perhaps one of the more difficult to understand Paradox games. Now, one of the things that's nice about Stellaris and what makes it so easy to get into if you've played sort of 4X strategy games before is that everybody sort of has an even start. The only reason why this particular civilization has a bigger border, I mean, they do have 3 planets, but it's a little more tightly concentrated. When they had 1 planet, they also had a bigger border, and that was just by virtue of their xenophobia. That's something that trait gives you. It's only on rare occasions that you will actually have a species that has a better start. So in in this particular game, it's sometimes a little difficult for me to say. It's like, okay, well, we're going to take stock. We're going to see what situation we find ourselves in, because this is one of the few Paradox games where I will go in and I sort of know that there is a more or less even playing field. Normally what I'll do when I play a game like this, I usually like to have lots of variety, so I usually won't play the same country twice. I maybe change that a bit for Europa Universalis, because there's a couple of countries which I sort of want to try and get a little bit better at. But by and large, in a game like that, I'm more likely to sort of push forward and try to... I just try to get the variety. I try to get a little bit more of an understanding of how the game works. So in a game like this, if you've been continuing on with a save and you have a very good idea of what you need to do, maybe you won't need to do something like this. But especially if I play something like this where I played it a week ago, I like to just take a moment, smell the roses, and see where we're going. And because this is sort of designed to be for a lot of my friends who recently got this game in a Humble Bundle. And incidentally, the Paradox Summer Sale is on, so there's an opportunity to pick up some of the DLC, some of the older DLC at least, on a good discount. Or if you didn't get a chance to buy this game, it is on sale. But basically, to just take a minute to recap what we did last week and sort of talk about where we're going to be moving forward. So if you take a look, there's a few different ways of going about this. I usually kind of like going on the planet level because I like to have something going on the planet. And in this particular case, we've got the surface, and we can see we're more or less where we wanted to be here. All the tiles that have something to... All the tiles that have something to work are kind of being worked. All of the tiles that are empty. Basically, I've got space for a new human to be born. A new Mishar to be born. And I don't really have any space for robots. Now, I went off with for those of you who are interested in building your own species, I started with the Mechanist perk, which basically gives me, or Civic rather, this gives me the ability to build robots at a discount on their maintenance, which is very helpful in terms of building out sort of an industrial base. And it's maybe worth reflecting on here. Robots are very good at generating minerals, and they're very good at generating food. So you'll notice that all of the tiles that have food and minerals are being worked by the robots, and then energy, science, unity, these are the sorts of things that my species is better at producing. And so I wanted to divide it that way. So all of these tiles are basically looking the way that I want them to. Next step is to find out what to do with this last tile here, because what are we looking at? We get about one a month. So in less than a year, we're going to have another human. So I could decide to build up my science. I am a little weak on my society research. Or I could build an energy grid. Now, what does the energy grid do? It gives me a 10% modifier to my energy credits. Now would be not a bad time to take a quick look and see what I'm looking at for that. I'm currently generating 9, so I mean, really, this works out to be kind of another one energy in addition to sort of what it grants on its own. It's kind of debatable whether or not I want to do that, except for the fact that I know I'm eventually going to be upgrading those. Produces 3 on its own. Produces 3 here. It's a very expensive upgrade. So how many energy plants do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, but let's just take a quick look at my traditions. I don't think my traditions are going to help me here. Nope. Alright. Well, I thought I was going to be building an energy grid there, but what I think I will do instead is I will actually double down on science. This is going to go idle for a while, but we've got that taken care of. So again, just in terms of this, we're saying, so what sort of shape do I want my civilization to go? What's the next step? What's the thing that I want to do? And right now I want to say, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to finish off what I started here. Eventually we're going to fill out our our navy. We're actually quite weak compared to where I want to be because we colonize fairly rapidly. But I'll talk about that a little bit later because, again, I think however you decide to do this, one of the better ways to approach a game like this is just very systematically work out your plans. And in this case, what we're doing is we're going from the most micro level, which are the populations and the planets, and then we're building our way up to sort of the broader considerations of the empire. So I know that now that I've gotten this taken care of, until I start upgrading these buildings, I've taken care of my capital planet of Oros. We're actually going to talk about the decision to upgrade these buildings next, but I want to finish off what I've gotten on my other planets. So these are fairly new colonies, and what we need to do now is decide where we want to sort of allocate our resources. You notice that we can't clear out any of these tile blockers. And sort of my view here is that I probably want to be building up my ability to grow populations. It certainly wouldn't hurt for me to just wind up building a whole lot of androids here, and get my pops to sort of work these other tiles. I certainly have the energy to afford it too. Hello, Uncle Elias. How are you doing? Yeah, I'm gonna just hold off on that for a little bit because I don't know if it'll actually be really interesting to see how long it takes to grow 2 robots at once. And then Pedalus Prime, this one unfortunately we don't have as much space on. You'll notice for that one, we mostly colonize this one to sort of get some resources within our realm of influence, our sphere of influence. So it wasn't too exciting why we did that. But I think we can make a similar argument to what we did before, which is we can build a robot here. It seems to make sense to free up the resources as quickly as I can. The only catch on this one is it means I'm actually going to have to start building some buildings for my populations fairly rapidly, but I don't think that's the worst thing to commit myself to. So I'm going to have to spend a little bit of time. It costs 50 minerals. So the nice thing about robots are that they are very heavy on mineral use, or on energy use rather than mineral use, and I tend to find I have a surplus of energy most of the time. But you do need some minerals, and minerals tend to be fairly scarce for me right now. Now, I've taken care of my planets as far as I can right now. All my construction ship and my science ships have kind of got their orders, so we're more or less happy in this respect, unless I specifically want to be building some more things. I already mentioned that I'm going to want to build some more military ships. This is just by virtue of the fact that my naval capacity is 10 of 22, so we're at half capacity. I can't really think of a reason why you would want to be anything but full capacity when playing this game. So one thing that you can do, and you'll notice here sort of the implicit guideline that I've been using in this game has just been to follow from my planets and just go straight down the outliner. I mean, if you don't like it, you can put it away. But here I decided this is not a bad way for me to just take a look at everything and make sure I wasn't leaving anything undone. Now, if you're brand new to this game and you don't know what to do, keep in mind that you can always mouse over something, right? So if you want, click to show the details, build, and I mean, in this case, if you want, you say, oh, let's build a power plant. Oh God, no, I don't want to lose those minerals. The game is pretty friendly. I'd say the most friendly out of the Paradox games in terms of new players, and there is a tutorial that's built into the game. Now, I will admit, it's very likely this tutorial is not going to be as helpful once a few patches come down the road, but let's give Paradox the benefit of the doubt on this one for now. So, all that I'm saying here is that if it's not, for me, I kind of know this game, so I probably stepped through a few things that may not necessarily be obvious when you sit down and play this game on your own. That's totally fine. What you want to do is just sort of take stock. If you're confused about something, mouse over it. And just think for a minute. It's like, okay, I get to assign one population. Notice how I move them to science and then I move them back to food? It's because I know that I'm not going to have a droid to build there, right? So as soon as this person starts working, I want them to make food so I can have more humans or Mishar to take over the planet. So rally points are just simply about where your ships go when you build them, so we're not going to worry too much about that. And the last thing I'm just going to do is take a quick look at my faction. My faction's currently generating me some extra influence, which is good. And what we want are 3 other empires with research treaties. We currently have 2, and the other species that we could potentially have a research agreement with doesn't like us very much, so we're not going to satisfy them on this. And finally, traditions of discovery. So the fact that we have not gone down the discovery path in our traditions window has caused some unhappiness with this faction. Now, as a whole, they're quite happy, so we're good there, but I am going to want to consider potentially going down the discovery path relatively soon. So we've sort of started with our little bit of, like I said, the smell the roses phase. There's one last thing that I'm going to draw your attention to before we unpause the game, and that is our resources. So if you're absolutely brand new, never seen this game before, your resources in the game are energy, which you can think of as money, minerals, which you can think of as sort of as construction materials, the ability to build fleets and buildings, food, which will affect your ability to grow your population, influence, which is your political ability, and unity, which is sort of this is something that was new that was brought in, but essentially your ability to move towards your ideal society. Finally, these are a little bit less of consumable resources, but you've got your science, physics, society, and engineering. And then strategic resources we'll cover when we research them. But in this case, there's a cap to the number of colonies that you can have. We'll discuss that a little bit later. And naval capacity, which we talked about before. So right now I'm at a cap on food, which I'm happy about because the food surplus is allowing us to grow fast. And influence, we're at a cap though. And in this case, there's no gain from just sitting on this. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and find something to do with this influence. And there's a few things that we can do. The first thing that we can do is take a look at our leaders. All right. Now, we've got 1 planetary governor, but we've got 3 colonies. So one thing that we can do is we can spend 50 influence to hire some new governors. And it seems to me that food is a nice one. And we're not going to be clearing any tile blockers just because all of those we don't have access to clearing yet. And so a bonus to leadership experience seems to be the better call. So we'll recruit one of these, and we'll recruit... Oh, actually, we've got 2 food-based ones, so... Doesn't hurt while we're in growth phase. All right, so what I did here was I assigned some governors. Main reason for this was just the 10% bonus to food. Now, that's not going to drive us wild because we don't have a whole lot of people working on food right now, but out of all the options, this seemed to be the best one. There are a few other things that a planetary governor will do, so if you notice, there's some common abilities up here. So you've got decrease to unrest, bonus to building speeds, decrease to clearing blockers, and then in the case of our original planetary governor, I'm actually not sure if this is because they're level 2 or it could be because they're on the capital. No, this is because they're level 2. I don't even remember what their default ability was. They're good at building stuff. So what I might wind up doing is actually moving this guy from the capital. Once I've sort of finished these constructions and these upgrades, I might actually move them to one of these other outposts just so I can kind of get it. I can get those improvements done as quickly as I can. Anyways, I'm going to unpause for now because we need to start generating some resources. And we're going to talk a little bit about the next few steps. So my current expansion plans will be to head out to Trappist and to head up to Ipskylla. Now, one thing I definitely want to do is start taking a look at some of these systems out here to see whether or not this is in danger of being taken by another group. This is a size 25 planet, so this is a fairly good resource to have. In terms of expansion plans, I can also take a few planets that are within my borders, particularly Ziph and Vega. These are actually star systems, and the planets are so it's Ziph 3 that's inhabitable. But basically, the reason I haven't done this is because of the directly colonized systems. Now, it's important to remember here that this is not a hard cap. For most Paradox games, you don't actually have a hard cap like this. I want to see what happens when I build more than one robot, so... Oh, looks like that just run... Oh, hang on. +0 a month. Interesting. So, in the name of... So, actually, this is an interesting question. So, clearly, I'm only going to be growing one robot at a time. I'm kind of glad that's the case, because that seems like that would be a little overpowered if you could grow more than one population at a time. Or build more than one population at a time. All right. Let's take a quick look at this system. All right. So I've got 114 minerals right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take my construction ship and I'm actually going to build one on this planet here. A good rule of thumb is that if you've got 2 of a resource on a planet, this is an average planet. If you've got 3, that's a good planet. If you've got 4, that's a uniquely good planet. I don't know if there are 5s for things other than special events that happen. And I'm going to bracket that. I'm going to table that conversation for a second and just talk about this. So that alert that I got was Unity. When you hit a certain capacity of Unity, you're able to add to one of your branches. Now, these are not crazy. I got kind of what I wanted, which were some bonuses to my my population. So we had a lot of these colonizable planets, and I said, I want to put as many of my species on planets as quickly as I can to basically expand the population and grow my industrial base and my strength really quickly. So I have 2 options. I can finish expansion. Now, this is an important one for me because it says the finisher effect, affecting all the expansion traditions, increases our core sector systems by 2. In addition, we unlock 1 ascension perk slot. So, my expansion plans of this planet and this planet, those are realized as soon as I trigger that. That's the main reason why I want to do this. For the purposes of the ability, Reach for the Stars, what I have right now, building frontier outposts, they count as being half the regular distance away. I'm not building any more outposts and I'm not building any more colonies. So this isn't going to be too much of an advantage. This will eventually unlock Galactic Ambition, which will decrease the cost of a frontier outpost, which I have right here. So that's not a bad one to have. But what we got to do right now, I mean, we're at our Unity. We need to spend that. What I might have done is open discovery, because I am going to be building a bunch of science posts, and it would be nice to save the money on them. But again, the ability to get those 2 extra core systems and to be able to expand even faster is a really good one for me. And then we also get to unlock an Ascension perk, which I will explain when we get it. So we got 494 for our Unity. That part of this is because we have we have some more colonies already. Again, mouse over. The game will explain what's going on to you. But we should be in a couple of years. We should be ready to claim. We should be ready to claim some more systems, and I'll make sure that I'm sort of set up for that event. So, like I mentioned, I was building a droid and I canceled it, and instead I went and I built a mine on this planet. This one should be fairly self-explanatory. It's because I get more with the 1 energy that it costs me to build this mining outpost. But why did I cancel the droid? Well, again, I'm not gaining anything. I am taking up that 150 energy and 50 minerals to sort of reserve the spot for that droid, but no progress is being made on it. And so one of the things that you want to do when you're starting off in a game like this, or any strategy game really, is to think, all right, what is my priority right now? And you want to measure your decisions in terms of what you're giving up for them, right? So in this case here, you know, I could say, well, I don't have as many, you know, I don't have as many people, or sorry, I don't have as many ships as I want. Like this might be a problem, and absolutely it may be. But do I really want to use up those minerals to, do I really want to use up those minerals to build a warship where instead I could be building a mining platform? And in this case, I don't have any immediate threats. I've got 2 friendly neighbors to the south. These guys seem to colonize. I don't remember what kinds of planets they... Desert worlds. Okay, so desert world wise, we've got... Okay, so they'll be able to take one of these, one of these, one of these. All right, so they'll be able to take these southern areas. This is why I should be a little bit careful about investing too much in these areas. Then for our friends to the south... All right, so they're actually going to wind up fighting over territory, I think. So they can't take the Tundra world. It's a shame for us that we can't take Lessem. But it seems that... and then they might want to... If they wanted to try some funny stuff, they might actually try and claim something like this. But there's not a whole lot that I can do about that. So basically, it doesn't seem like we're going to be fighting over territory anytime soon. These might cause a little bit of border friction, but nothing I can't live with.
System survey.
So the big question is like, is there a major reason for me to say I'm not going to, I categorically have to have an expanded military? Like there's no higher priority. Right now, no. And this time that I take building all these other resources, such as these mining platforms, that's going to be something that will allow me to build my even better fleet even faster. One of the important things too is the more that I hold off building my fleets, I don't need to worry about technological progress, right? If I know that I'm going to be doing a bit of extra research, if I know that I'm going to be moving forward in terms of the kinds of abilities that these fleets are going to have, there's a little bit less, like if you think about it, right? If you build your fleet too early, you wind up building the ship, you don't use it, you pay the maintenance for it while you're not using it, and then a better technology comes along and you upgrade. Now, it's not that big of a cost to you in the grand scheme of things, because in the end you wind up paying for the new technology anyway. The cost is really in the form of you building that component that you're replacing and you never used. So this is why, again, I do need to accept that I'm being a little contradictory here when I say that you want to keep this as high as you can get it. Sometimes there are, oh man, I really blew it here. There was a 5 that I could have built. So again, that was a little bit of a waste, right? Because I got a 3 where I could have been spending that time generating 2 new mining resources. The challenge, of course, is that there's a whole bunch of stuff for me to keep track of, so... All right, let's just pause for a second here and see what we're going to do. So Sentinel Point Defense, the point of this is to act as a countermeasure to missiles. I don't need to worry about that right now. I don't know what my enemies have, and I don't really have any ships that can take advantage of it. So it seems to me that we can go for assist research, we can go for improved deflectors or gravic sensors, just sort of sight unseen. Now, assist research, I'm going to say we're going to knock that off the list right now. And the reason that we're going to do that is because we have got so much of space unexplored. And in particular, we're going to be, we're definitely going to want to be looking at sort of all of these outer areas here. So my science ships are not going to be on my planets doing any extra research. That would be a waste of my abilities right now. Improved deflectors is very tempting because, of course, we've already invested in energy, and we know that at least some of our enemies have had lasers. But the drawback here, of course, is that it costs 816. It's the most expensive thing. So then we ask the question, well, what about gravic sensors? Now, this is a little bit of a tricky one. It does improve the tracking and the sensor range of my ships, which is generally good when I'm sort of wanting to look for expansion. And then there's the planet sensor range. So in this case, you know, I'm going to be able to see a little bit more, although I sort of already know what's going on around the world. But this is going to be the one that I go for. And the reasoning kind of goes, hey, Weird Princess. Thank you very much for saying so. I'm sorry for starting so late, but I'm blaming it partly on summer. And I'm also blaming it. There's a bunch of stuff that I'm kind of doing off cast, which I hope will turn into some good things for cast, but it takes a long time. So, but I always appreciate it. This maybe needs to be said. I know it's probably going to be a thin audience tonight, but that doesn't mean I don't appreciate you guys. It really means a lot to have people who come back and like when you see a regular name, you know, you guys can be spending your time doing anything. And I will admit there are a lot of times I say to myself, it's like, look, I gotta, you know, there's other stuff I have to do. You know, I'm spending too much time with Twitch and things like that. But it really does mean a lot to have people who like your stuff and, you know, who come out. So I'll try not to be too sappy about it. But thank you very much, guys, for doing that, because it is recognized. I maybe don't specifically voice it, but anyways, like we were saying, graphic sensors, mostly because it's inexpensive. So one thing you can think of this as is sort of a chance to redraw. Now, if I really thought these were all equally useless, I would have gone for assist research. Thing is, I actually see utility for all of them. And the only thing here is I just don't think I'm going to be using my improved deflectors sooner than I'm going to be taking advantage of extended sensor range. So I think you have gotten a fairly good idea of what the next few rounds are going to look like. I am sort of debating even on building a second construction ship just so I can get a little bit more done. I'll maybe consider doing that after I build out my fleet. Let's just see if there's anything we can do with the surface. So we've already taken care of these. Okay. So I think we need to start thinking about upgrades. System survey complete. So here's the way that we want to think a little bit about upgrading here. So right now we've got a power plant 1. We can do an upgrade. And for 81 minerals, we can get 1 extra power. Okay, so this is, right now it's producing 5. And that's just because of happiness. Or sorry, it's not just because of happiness. It's because of the base tile had 2. So you get 3 from the power plant, you get 2 from the tile, and this is going to be now 4 from the power plant. So this is ultimately going to produce 6. So 81 minerals for 1 extra. Ooh, bonus border range. I like that. All right, let's take a quick look and see what my mountain ranges look like. All right, so we've got 1 on an empty tile. Yeah. Does that seem like a good use of my science research to you? All right, so we're not going to do that one. Orbital hydroponic farms is a little tempting. Because it gives me even more food, but I think I really think we're going to be okay for food for a while. And I think naval capacity, even though I'm behind, I think that is a better investment. And more importantly, I'm actually going to assign. I'm going to get the. So this is not because this guy is any good at researching military technology. It's the fact that she's good at everything. So I'll get these sensors a little bit faster. They're a higher priority for me. So anyways, we're talking about upgrades. So we've said, all right, so we're going to be spending 81 to upgrade this. You know, similar idea here, right? You're basically looking at 81 to get any kind of, any given upgrade on one of your buildings. Is this worth it? Well, let's take a quick look at some of our alternatives, right? We could say, let's say this robot was already constructed. Well, if I wanted to get 1 bonus mineral, I can spend 30 on a basic mine. And this is sort of the way that you want to start thinking about these upgrade decisions. In fact, because I know that Unity is going to be what allows me to build... oh my god, that's another really good planet. And it's a size 25. Oh, hang on. We already knew about that one. I was confusing the two. A large amount of ship debris is found in the orbit of this planet, possibly the remnants of some kind of massive fleet action. Research. I'm actually going to do something a little counterintuitive and build the Autothon. Is it? No, I'm... Chthon? Chthon? Autochthon? I don't know. I'm actually going to build this monument right away. And we're going to move our... How long is that going to take me? 167 days. I think we're safe with that. So we already see where the advantages lie. If we build these basic buildings, we're gonna see more. So this is a good general principle. Obviously, I really kind of belabored the point in order to try and establish the principle. If I say this only for buildings, then it's not immediately clear that that is a lesson that applies throughout the game, right? Like I said, I evaluate, so my decision to upgrade a level 3 mineral should be weighed in terms of how many turns I wasted not mining that 5. Similarly, if I started mining this 3 over this 4, same story, right? That was 1 mineral a turn that I was uselessly throwing away for no reason other than I just couldn't be bothered to take a look. So in this case, it makes sense that when you have sort of new colonies, especially undeveloped tiles, you want to develop them first because they will give you the same bonus, but they will cost you less. There's one exception to this, and it's tiles like these. So if you think about it right now, I'm getting sort of 3 items from that tile. I'm getting the 2 mineral and the 1 food. If I were to build a hydroponics farm, I would be losing the 2 minerals. And so I'd be, in terms of net resources, I would be evening out. What I would be, of course, be doing is I would be removing 2 from here and gaining 2 for food. In reality, I probably want to be improving my minerals at the expense of my food. But of course, I am going to be growing my populations as well, so I don't want to be upsetting that system quite yet. But this is sort of how you want to be thinking about some of these decisions. You want to say, okay, if I have to build and if I have to make a decision of what I'm going to turn this tile into, what's the most logical path that I can take? What is the sort of thing that I'm going to, what's the sort of thing I'm going to put what's the sort of thing that I want to put the, I want to put the effort into, and is that tile, is that resource that I'm giving up worth it ultimately? So, and again, the reason I'm building these monuments for Unity is just because upgrading to the last level of expansion is going to give me 2 new colonies, which means I'm just going to be able to expand that much faster. There's clear evidence that a massive space battle took place in the close orbit of Escola 2 at some point in the last 5,000 years. The surface on one side of the planet is pockmarked with craters from stray weapons blasts, and scans of the ISS Trailblazer have picked up several hulks on the ground. Though these wrecked ships are all in very poor condition, the fact that anything remains at all after the damage they must have sustained is a testament to their advanced design. Science Officer Marilyn Brockbank is preparing an expedition to sift through these derelict hulls for any valuable technologies.
Situation log updated.
All right, so... Oh, I probably should have shift queued that, but that's fine. We'll work with it. Sorry guys, I'm just gonna pause for a quick bit of refreshment and then I'll be back to yammering. So, one other maybe amendment that I'll make to what I was saying before. The one case that I could think of something that I might want to upgrade before doing anything else. So, would be if I say it's like, okay, there's a resource that I absolutely must have more of, and it's not being developed on any one of my other planets. So if I don't even have a good example of this, because honestly, I've got undeveloped tiles on pretty much all of my planets. But hypothetically, if like for some reason I was able to upgrade this for bonus unity, let's say, I would be willing to spend the extra on it because there's just simply no other way that I can achieve that. Hello, coil guns. All right. Now, it is tempting to just go absolutely ham and take an early railgun. I don't really want nukes. I mean, so the question that's before me right now is that I've got a bunch of 1300. So it's like either I say I don't find any use for these materials and I want to redraw the deck, at which case I go for nuclear missiles. And I mean, that's not necessarily bad because that diversifies my my armaments. Or I can say it's like, all right, well, you know, I actually am going to use the railgun. So it sucks that I'm going to be spending 60 months on it, but I'm also going to be spending 60 months on this, so why not? Let's just see, so 23 months, 18 months. Yeah, we're going to be waiting a while on this, but I might even consider prioritizing engineering research when I'm upgrading buildings, just to make sure that we can try and take that down. This may wind up being a very foolish decision, but it just seems, given the hand that I was drawn, I can live with that. All right, and we've maximized our influence again. That's not very surprising. So can we do the same trick that we did last time? Well, obviously we've got our colonies spoken for, so it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to hire a new governor. We only really have one fleet, so it doesn't make any sense to hire an admiral. I could hire a general and just put him on ice, but I don't plan on... Don't nukes lead to torpedoes? I believe they do, We're Princess. But I haven't... I'll be honest with you, I haven't put too much thought into fleet design. It's one of the things that I was kind of hoping to learn as I go, and I wound up with a very peaceful opening, so... I should probably go to the wiki and look for that, though, so... Problem is I always go with nukes, so I wanted to try and do something different. But yeah, you could be completely correct in that. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So now we need to find, like, what... Obviously you can do whatever you want with influence. You can just burn it. But usually there's a good reason for doing something. So let's think a little bit about what our possible uses might be. Well, we could reform the government. Thing is, I like my government. And I don't have any bonus civic picks. So, you know, this is what we started off with. If I wanted a different government, I would have built it that way. So it doesn't really make sense to do that. What about policies and edicts? Now, I didn't talk about this before. This would have been a good one to do at the start of the game. You can actually adjust your stances on certain things. So, for instance, you can say that right now we can go to war for anything that we want. Food stockpiling affects this. So at some point I might want to go to something like balanced or large food stockpiles. The thing is right now that because we're running a surplus, we get a bonus to our population growth. So I sort of want to be out of growth mode before I start stockpiling. Orbital bombardment reflects kind of your willingness to inflict damage on potentially civilian areas during war. Resettlement is your ability to sort of just pick somebody up and say, you have to move there. In this case, it's prohibited, which actually can... So one of the things that makes the slave version of the Civic that I picked makes it very difficult, because you might have a very good sort of workman species that just breeds like out of control, and you don't have any work for them. So resettlement would be rather important there, but it's not necessarily a very liberal idea. And of course, we're playing space communists, so that's not a good idea. First contact protocol fairly sensible. There's no sense in, to my view, there's no sense in going to war with people the second that we meet them, so we'll keep that. Artificial intelligence, you only have the options of servitude or outlawed. I am definitely not outlawing artificial intelligence. Core world's populations, I mean, in this case, we only have one species, so we're not too worried about it. Refugees welcome again. That's just more people who can work our tiles. We're happy about that. We don't do slavery and we don't do purges. So the things that will help us with our influence would be maybe we want to declare some edicts. So you can do an information quarantine, which will improve governing ethics attraction. Now, I haven't really seen too much of a problem with these. I mean, the only thing that I might consider would be kind of the pairing of like information quarantine and encourage free thought, but I have a feeling that they probably I don't know if these are like contradictory. I could also do some grants, but they also come at the cost of the they come at the cost of they come at the cost of sort of crippling your other research. So you could maybe make an argument for society research, although again, I want my engineering to be as high as I can, and my society is fairly weak right now, so I'm not going to go for any of these. There are, however, planetary versions of these edicts. In this case, again, you can change governing ethics attraction. You can change happiness. You can improve migration. You can do... Yeah, that's what I would have thought. I mean, they're fundamentally contradictory ideas, so it's funny that they don't mention that off the top. Capacity overload, so bonus to energy credits, infrastructure projects, or spirit of science. So the ones that kind of catch our attention here would be spirit of science for the bonuses to research, infrastructure to building, except that it's the capital and we know we're not going to be building on here, or capacity overload for bonuses to energy. We don't have, there's an equivalent one which will give a bonus to production, but we don't have that yet. Let's just take a quick look at what our outputs are on these planets. Incidentally, if you wanted a slightly better view in terms of what your planets are outputting, you also have these. So it seems to me to make sense to put the edict on the capital, right, where we're sort of producing the most. And the question is, which one do we want to go for? Again, we just want to cover it so that we're at the peak. And so the question is, do we want to do science or capacity overload? Well, we have a lot of options in terms of energy. We're definitely like whittling down our surplus, but that's sort of by design, and I can just as easily switch my construction ship to start building some more energy production. So in this case, we're going to go for Spirit of Science, and we're in the clear for a few more turns. All right, back to my construction ship. We will take a quick second just to make sure we don't have any obvious... So that 3 is a little tempting, but I also think we're probably going to wind up building on that planet at some point. We've got a 3 here though, so... No, you know what? We might as well build on the 3 that we have. Alright, let's build another robot. And following the principle that we had, for 30, we build a basic mine. I was a little tardy on that population, but that's fine. How are we with robots here? Still building one. And what I'm going to do here, because the autothon... so I'm just going to call it the monument. I'm just going to switch these out. Because I actually want the unity more than I want the science. Rouge Light Girl, how are you doing? Thank you very much for that, host. The team under Science Officer Marilyn Brockbank has finished their expedition on Escala 2 and has returned to the ISS Trailblazer. Sadly, the wrecked starships on the surface were too badly damaged to recover any useful technologies. These vessels were clearly very advanced, however, and we could gain valuable engineering insights if we analyzed the way that they were designed. We should consider the construction of a permanent science outpost in orbit. How are you doing, my friend? All right, so we're going to continue to survey the system. The nice news is, of course, that we have plans to colonize Trappist. So it means we'll probably wind up getting that engineering. You're awesome. I'm very glad to hear that. Is there any particular reason why you want to, or why you're awesome, or are you just feeling good overall? Which is just a really direct way of saying, how dare you feel awesome? Right. I'm thinking we can afford to build a... I mean, it sort of sucks that I have to build a ship because, or well, that I'm building a ship because I know I'm going to be upgrading the railgun, but it seems like a nice little a little moment where I can get that out of the way. It's midwinter here, so that was nice. Rouge Lake Girl, I always thought you were in the US for some reason. Do you mind if I ask where you're from? I'm pretty sure I know the hemisphere based on what you're saying, but I was hoping maybe if I can pinpoint that by a little bit more. All right, I think I can get away. New Zealand, that's right. You mentioned that before too. My bad.
Construction complete.
I was going to try and speed up the game, but I knew, turns out it's actually kind of quick. So we're going to continue building the mining station. Oop. A Class 12 asteroid orbits this planet. The small planetoid's orbit appears to be too stable for its presence to be a natural occurrence. All right. So got new opportunities. Purple's usually very good, but I want to see if there's anything else that we can go for. So I can do automatic exploration, which will improve my survey speed, which is very tempting. Warp Drive 2, improved stabilization techniques for warp fields will enable our ships to travel further while expending less energy. Again, I can go for... Nah, I feel like I have to go for good exploration. So the question is, do I want the exploration to come in the form of better travel, or do I want it to come in the... I think the survey speed is something I'm going to be using on a more regular basis, so... The thing is, I'm spending so much... I'm definitely spending a lot of science on some things that I think I probably should be relaxing a little bit on, but... I also think after this construction ship is done, I need to sort of prioritize my my energy resources again, because those are going to get sucked up pretty fast. Let's see. So yeah, I think all of my low-hanging fruit has been taken care of. I actually need to be a little conscious in terms of how I set up my next few steps, because for some reason, someone has towed an asteroid into a stable orbit around Sayuzima 5. This massive engine sections and braking thrusters can still be found on the surface, although they have long since been rendered inoperable. Whoever did this also mined the asteroid for minerals, but these operations were seemingly abandoned shortly after they begun. So less likely that we're going to be able to take this one, but we did just see... this is one of these jerk aliens.
System survey.
I'm really curious why they're so far out here. It might be because they're a hyperlane species. It's possible we can find that out. Chemical thrusters, warp drive 1. Oh no, they're FTL. You find yourself unironically using US slang these days. What y'all mean? Alright, I want to take a quick look at what some of these neighboring systems are. Bit jealous you spent all day in 41. Oh my god. What kind of work do you do, Weird Princess? other than manual labor, obviously. But yeah, my office was kind of hot today, but I used to work in, I've mentioned this a couple of times on cast, so this might just wind up sounding kind of like I'm bragging, but I did used to work in film. So I did have to work outdoors, and can't say it was the best experience of my life. But I'm kind of happy. All right, I'm gonna build a robot, but it's so I can switch him out onto this food tile. Anyways, so I've had that experience. I can't say it's one I want to repeat, but now I'm just a big old nerdy economist, so I don't have to have days like that anymore. Y'all, hella, and totes. I didn't know hella and totes were particularly American. Brag, you live in the same city as Weta, where they made Lord of the Rings. Everybody's worked in film. Yeah, that's the other one too. Like I at least get to. So actually, here's one that you might like, Rouge Light Girl. I had to work at a Starbucks for a while with Andrew Lesnie's, I believe it was niece. But anyways, a relative of his. Actually, I could completely see the family resemblance once she mentioned it. But I worked in camera, so like to me, you know, to know somebody who is a relative of somebody who did such a wonderful job photographing the movie was wonderful. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely some I mean, most of the time for places where you very frequently see films shot, it is completely unimpressive to say that you worked in movies. But yeah, I certainly don't regret doing it, but I'm probably a better economist. Okay, so there's a little bit of a temptation to clear out the dense jungle because that will clear up a food tile and a science tile. 2 food tiles and a science tile. Let's see what our alternatives are. So the toxic kelp is less compelling. Fleet support is a very tempting one to pick up because of the crew quarters and engineering bay. I usually want to have at least one of those. But I just think because my focus right now is on the acquisition of the necessities and conveniences of life. Yeah, Rouge Light Girl, I had to do that. That was the very first job I ever had in film. But yeah, the outdoors component was something that... I'm sorry, guys. I'm somebody who likes... You chase storms and keep Houston, Texas from flooding constantly. Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's a slightly more, or I won't say glamorous, but slightly more useful activity than what I was up to outside. All right, as you can see, we're getting a pretty good clip on our minerals, so we're going to continue to build out our fleet. I think our robot construction is also going to be limited on Despad Prime. I don't see... So we have some empty tiles available, obviously. But I think at this point, staying the course is probably where I want to go with this. I need to sort of see roughly where I'm at resource-wise before I commit too much. You were an extra in a Finnish search engine commercial. I didn't know there were Finnish search engines. What company was this, Uncle Elias? You're going to move to Texas and you would have loved to chase storms. I mean, I got to see... we're coming up very close on Canada's 150th birthday, 150th anniversary of Confederation. So I will point out that I got to, or, you know, one of our great inventions is IMAX. I watched a lot of IMAX movies as a kid. So I got to see a Storm Chaser movie on IMAX. that was really fantastic. By the way, I don't like shouting. So it's kind of tough here for
System survey complete.
shouting out,
Construction
drawing attention to lurkers. So there's somebody in chat who I'll just say, I'm very happy to see you here. And if you want to give a private indication saying, oh, election time. Even if you just want to give a private little indicator that I'm okay to give your channel a shout out, I'd be very happy to do that, but there is no pressure. Although I know you're also the kind of person who'll say, oh no, you don't need to do that. It's like, I do need to do that because you're a cool guy. Anyways. You saw Twister once. I don't think I've ever watched Twister. I know there's like a scene with a cow. And I know that because whenever somebody mentions Twister, somebody talks about the scene with the cow. Anyways, so you notice here how we used to be in double digits on energy. And we're now down to 1. This is, I mean, again, it's something that I anticipated. But this is sort of the thing you want to keep an eye on when you're planning things out. Like, again, I'm making money hand over fist, so I'm not too worried about this. I know that I can get a construction ship to just go around and pick up the energy resources about as quickly as I exploit them. But this is also why I'm okay leaving some empty spaces here, because what's probably going to happen is I'm going to dedicate a lot of this to energy. All right. Hinita Nishimura has been elected as the first citizen of the Mishar Cooperative. Consult the situation log for details on their mandate. All right, so looks like it was the scientist who got assigned, and unsurprisingly, they have an orbital research mandate. That kind of sucks for me, because I would have liked to have a talented scientist working on my stuff, but all right. I usually go for the youngest ones, and it just happens that particles is something that's fairly nice and complementary to some of this technology that I'd like in the future. Now we are going to suffer a little bit on our research. We're going to be a bit behind on the physics stuff, but I think I can live with that for now. And
construction complete.
all right, so I'm going to lock this guy. So I'm just going to pause for a second so I can review my energy possibilities. I think I'm basically chasing a bunch of 2s for the rest of the expansion. It's going to make things a little tricky, but I think we can manage it. What do my leader's stats look like? So she can help me build frontier outposts, and she's good at getting extra minerals, which is great news for me. Repeated scans of Xania 3A's surface give inconsistent sensor readings, almost as if the planet itself was in a constant state of upheaval. Hello, Kite 260. Ladies and gentlemen, Kite 260 is a very dear friend of this cast, and I have been looking for a chance to shout him out for a while, but I have been inconsistent at my start times, and I haven't been able to watch his cast as well, so I can't tell you what I know he was casting tonight because I was hosting him, but because I was late getting started, I didn't get a chance to peek in before I did anything. But I'm going to take a minute and let you know that Kite is a great guy. He is absolutely one of the people who I would recommend purely on the basis of his personality, alongside the fact that I have been able to watch some of his casts and really enjoy them. I am tempted to upgrade this ship shelter just because it will... What will it give me? Oh, well, I guess I'm going to find out what it gives me. Unity. That alone is a reason to upgrade it. And you know what? Let's be bold and build another. Uh-oh. In their last message, the crew... sorry, Kite, I will get back to your shout-out. In their last message, the crew of the ISS Trailblazer reported activity spiking on Xania 3A as they approached the surface. Communications were cut shortly thereafter, and the ship and all aboard are missing, presumed dead. That is a really big setback, because that was a fairly good research that I had, and I just spent some money on a warship. But again, that's one of the advantages of producing 51 minerals a turn. We will be able to build ourselves a nice new ship in 2 months. Anyways, guys, Kite is a really great personality. He is somebody who has helped out a lot of streamers that I really like. And it is absolutely worth mentioning that, I mean, so a lot of people do this for fun, and that's a great motivation for it. But in the end, I think every streamer that gives up something to stream, whether it's time, whether it's money. I mean, I definitely owe you guys for being able to sort of build a PC rig so that I could stream more games. And in the end, some people can't necessarily afford it. And Kite has been somebody who, in addition to his emotional support, has financially supported a lot of casters that I really like. And that means that's something that I have been able to benefit from personally, in terms of just the work that, or the stuff that I'm able to watch. Now, one of the things that I also like to shout out Kite for is his interpersonal ability. Just again, I kind of talked about the way that he helps out a lot of streamers that I like, but he's one of the people who has been able to master the kind of the co-op cast. He's somebody who has actually personally casted with people who I've cast with and had a really hard time making it fun, and he did it very naturally. And more importantly, too, he does a lot of sort of kind of group-friendly games. So he's done like Smash Brothers, and he's done Mario Kart with his audience. He's somebody who really has a great connection with people. And so again, I don't get a chance to see him as often as I would like, but he's somebody who I need to give a very strong recommendation for. And he's somebody who makes me a lot happier whenever he comes into cast, because he's just a really great guy, and it gives me a chance to speak of him that way. I also kind of gave Rouge Lake Girl a bit of a short shrift. Now, again, with the time difference, I see Rouge Lake Girl even less than I see Kite, and normally I'm at work or I'm in a cafe, so I'm not usually able to speak. But there were 2 casts that I got at least a couple minutes of. One was Stardew Valley, and then I feel like there was a Borderlands cast in the semi-near period. Anyways, somebody who I have to shout out mostly as a really great member of this community, and I can definitely highly recommend what I've seen of the cast, but I do need to confess that this is one that you will see me in less just by virtue of geography, certainly not interest. But that's another one who I really should have taken the time to give a proper shout out to, but instead I just said hi and moved on with the game. So you're on like twice a week? Huh. Well, I definitely know there was a time where I caught you on 2 times on a week, so I think I got lucky there. Anyways, regardless of how often you cast, I definitely feel like you deserve credit for what you've done, and I'm happy to give it. Great, thank you, Kite. There's a perfect example of what I'm talking about with Kite. A new faction has recently been gaining traction in the internal political landscape of the Mishar Cooperative. Led by Governor Harold Hargreaves, they call themselves the Galactic Emancipation Forum. Their members work for equality and justice for all denizens of our empire. Now, this has a population of 1, so they have less influence in my empire overall. But they have things that I do well. So they're anti-autocratic. I don't plan on becoming a dictatorship. They want free movement, so I can't force relocate anybody. I'm okay with that. Reproductive freedoms. So this would mean that if I had sort of sort of a slave caste or something like that, that they would, I wouldn't do any kind of purge or anything like that. And anti-caste. So in this case, of course, they would not support any kind of slavery or something like that. So obviously it's grown just because, if I haven't unpaused there, it'll just say the person who founded it. Now, it's actually in my interest to have this group grow because I'm going to be able to satisfy them a lot easier than the technological group. And that means more influence for me. But for the meantime, I can live with this. Can I build my science ship? Yes, I can. Still salty about that loss. Now here's a question for you guys. I was going to do a bit of a review of the GOG sale, but I know I'm going to be short on time, so we'll maybe save that for the end. But I'm curious if any of you guys have any questions about Stellaris, because, the moment of truth has arrived. All right, we're going to do Galactic Ambition, so this is going to help me. This is importantly going to help me on my Frontier Outpost. So this thing costs me 3 energy and 1 influence. This reduces the upkeep by 50%. So we adopt that. We have finished the expansion tree. So notice that we now have a we've got a 5 here rather than the 3. And we can now pick an Ascension perk. Now this is kind of what I was hoping to build up on. So, I'm going to be talking a little bit about game mechanics, but what I wanted to say was if you guys had any questions about Stellaris, I know obviously I talk about the gameplay as I go, but I did want to encourage people who are new to the game. And there at least was a summer sale going on, but it seems like it's done. So, never mind, this game isn't on sale anymore. Too bad. You gotta wait for Steam. I think the GOG sale is still going on, though. Yes. It's the finale. But Tyranny is 50% off. It's another Paradox game. All right, we'll save that sales pitch for another time. So what we're going to do here, again, just to reiterate why we wanted to do this. 1, so that I can continue my expansion. You've managed to avoid Stellaris so far. It would probably suck you in so hard that you would starve or submit. This is my history with Paradox games. So priority number 1, expand our core sector systems. Now there's another way that I can add more planets into my system. I can build sectors, but I'm not quite ready to do that. I actually like having a bit of a hand in how I build up my empire before I hand it off to other people. So we're gonna skip that. And then finally, just to expand this out, we said, instead of satisfying the faction, we wanted to go for our early perk. So yeah, exactly. Rouge Light Girl. Okay, so it's worth mentioning here, right, that you don't get to pick anything. So again, this is something that was added in Utopia. So the idea here is that you are sort of you're shaping your ideal society. All species will have these things in common: expansion, domination, prosperity, harmony, supremacy, diplomacy, discovery. And it makes sense, right? These are just general themes in the game. It doesn't make sense to say that your species is incapable of this kind of work. But it definitely means a little bit of a difference in terms of what your perks can be. So let's start by taking a look at what we have available. We can do Interstellar Dominion, which will increase our border range by 25%. That's a little tempting just because I know I'm going to be branching out, but let's see if we can do better. Technological Ascendancy, so that's a nice early 10% bonus to research speed. Can do one vision, governing ethics attraction plus 30%, and we also get a 10% bonus to unity output. So that's basically like building half a autothon monument. Mastery of nature is a very strong one. This is basically free clearing of tile blockers, and you can pretty much clear out anything. I'm somewhat tempted to go for this one. And then imperial prerogative. And this would give me another 5 core sector systems. Now, let me actually just take a quick look and see what this will... So in terms of what I can colonize right now, that would give us a total of 7. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could technically take advantage of that. And the real question is, what do I think is my biggest priority right now? Because I feel like suddenly colonizing 7 planets all at once is going to be a really big drain on my resources. Oh, a quick look in terms of some of the other things that you can get. So you've got engineered evolution. To leave our genetic destiny in the hands of nature is an inefficient and excruciatingly slow process. Why not jumpstart that for the future of our species? Lines up very well with my materialistic view of the world, but as it says here, requires one other ascension perk to be selected first, and I need the gene tailoring technology. Synthetic evolution. It is time to abandon the flawed organic vessels that imprison our minds. By transferring our neural patterns into synthetic bodies, we achieve a higher state of being. So we need 3 other ascension perks for that. We need the synthetics technology, synthetic personality matrix, and we require the flesh is weak ascension perk. So some of these are things that you build towards, right? Galactic wonders. But let's focus on a little bit on what we can do here. One thing that we might do is see if there's a level 2 that has like a prerequisite. So we need 1 other ascension perk, 3 other ascension perks. Engineered evolution. Flesh is weak. Yeah, so it looks like we don't actually have to make any like hard decisions until our second perk. So our question is, do we want border range? Do we want research speed? Unity? Easily cleared borders? Or extra core systems? And I think I've got one deciding factor. Yeah. Although we mastered nature mastered the nature of our homeworld long ago, the alien biomes we have since encountered present new challenges. They too shall be overcome. All right. And unsurprisingly, I just lost a bunch of society research because of that decision. So atmospheric filtering is a little tempting because eventually I'm gonna run out of the low-hanging fruit. Cheaper war demands is a nice ability to have, but of course we're not really going to war, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, the one thing that makes sense is the naval capacity, just because it's 31 months versus 69 months. Actually, you know what? Let's go for that because I can afford a bigger navy right now. All right, now I've got some decisions to make. I think I'm going to prioritize any energy tiles I can get. Oh, actually, what am I saying? This is free. I'm completely prioritizing this the wrong way, but I don't think it's going to matter. All right, let's get that new science ship underway. Nobody who's good at exploring, so we'll go for the youngest. And I think I want them to... So we've already explored Trappist, it looks like. Let's research this while we're on our way. I think these research stations are level 5s. And my other science ship, still level 4. So when this person gets to level 5, we're going to send them off here, and we're going to maybe send my other ship. Oh, okay, Space Whale, we're good. We'll maybe send our other guy to explore this neck of the woods, but these are my immediate sort of expansion concerns. So, and while we're at it, so the one thing I haven't done that oh wait, I did make a spaceport. Okay, I'm happy then. I think we're gonna sit on our minerals for a while, and we're going to build a colony ship. The only thing that'll spend the money on will be another mine. And in the meantime, we can just finish clearing everything out.
System survey complete.
Pathfinder. I'm pretty much just sending them into the wild unknown at this point. I might want to put some structure in terms of their exploration options. But I don't think to me it doesn't hurt to just sort of look at the immediate area, because this planet's going to blob out a little bit. It wouldn't hurt to know what resources I have available to me. But yeah, like I said, we're going to build a colony ship as soon as we can. We're going to wait till the turnover, and looks like the construction ship's going to be taking a while on its energy. Now we're going to be in the tank for energy for a bit. Man, I don't like these guys. Yeah, we're going to be in the hole for a little bit with this this ship, unless my construction ship gets really efficient. But I'm willing to go for it, mostly because this is a pretty big prize to get a level 25 world, and then to be able to reach out and get Trappist shortly after is another priority. It doesn't seem like there's any other species sort of in the immediate area that I need to worry about, but there's no point in taking any unnecessary risks. It is a little bit of a shame to think about where our next expansion comes from. It actually makes me want to get the Discovery perk as soon as I can. And that's mostly because I want to be able to get some bonuses for exploring. So what we're going to do here is just kind of go out in a little bit of a circle from this, what's going to become our territory.
Construction complete.
Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ignore this, and I'm going to upgrade this ship. All right, Oros builds a colony ship, and I continue to build mining stations. I should consider some of these... oh, you know what? I really need to build something on... Oh, no, that's not a 4. I should actually start building some science platforms as well, but I know that with Discovery, I'm going to get some discounts on those. So I've held off a little bit in the hope that my Unity builds in 49, and it's like 10 years for an election. So next election is in 8 years, so we'll have enough time to fulfill the mandate. Not that I'm really like hurting for influence, but doesn't hurt to keep this stuff in mind. Just trying to think if there's any real advantage to trying to put like a frontier outpost somewhere around here and just snapping up a few of these planets. I don't really have a lot of information on what's on them though, so... So one of the reasons why I'm sort of wasting this, the Pathfinder's time right now, you'll see... Hopefully you'll see. Drat. So the fact that it's inside means it's a little different, but basically this is the original model. So this ship is a little bit more, you can see what this is outfitted with, and then you can see what this is outfitted with. So sensor range is like, now that I'm kind of going out into unknown areas and I'm trying to find new planets that I can colonize and expand my empire, this is actually a fairly high priority for me to get right. So I'm willing to take the time to like drag this thing off and upgrade it rather than just sort of sit on my hands and wait for things to turn out. Okay, I am also not using my guys very efficiently, so let's get this robot underway. Let's build a power plant. I feel like I should be building another... Oops. Like, I don't want to always be building robots where I can. Obviously, Oros doesn't have anything going for it, but... I think I'm going to rest on that for now. But I definitely have some infrastructure to build. Well, you know what? It's not going to hurt to build a science lab. Anything that's like an obvious upgrade, I'm happy to go for. Hydroponics farm is maybe a little debatable, that it's also only 24. There are signs that an ancient precursor civilization, of activity by an ancient precursor civilization on this inhospitable rock. Research it. And colony ship should be done soon. Okay, science ship, let's... I think we'll continue on the path that we had, so we're going to do just sort of a nice little path on the periphery of what we know, and then we'll sort of reconsider our position once we finish this circuit. We're a little lucky to be so close to the center, just because, like, in terms of the degrees of freedom that we have of exploration, it's not too spooky. The one thing I will say that's a little disappointing is there's not a lot of black holes around here, so the likelihood of encountering the horizon signal event is a little bit less likely. The Hanmur Interstellar Nation want to have an active sensor link. Now, it seems to me that my maps are sort of my secret sauce, so I'm going to decline that. They don't really know anything that I want to know. It's always, you know, nice to have trade agreements where I can, but not at the expense of giving up an advantage. All right, looks like there's only one more energy resource for me to build on, so we'll get that underway. The ancient frozen remains of almost 1,000 aliens have been found in the vicinity of Dradim 6. They come from over a dozen different species, and a preliminary dating puts the corpses at roughly 600,000 years old, around the same time as the Cybrex machine consciousness ravaged this part of the galaxy.
Situation log updated.
And this requires a skill 5 scientist as well.
Complete.
All right. These guys are done. Let's, again, send this guy on a sightseeing mission. Trappist is a little bit of a shame just because it doesn't immediately have anything to really commend it. But it is kind of close to my empire, and there is some stuff that I can kind of get out of it, but it's not one that really excites me. Now, one drawback here is that there's hazardous weather on this planet, so this is going to translate into lower habitability and happiness, but the bonus energy credits is too tough to pass up. So we only need to decide where we want to land. Can't place it on a tile blocker, unfortunately, so I think this makes as much sense as any. It's beside sort of 4 workable tiles. Getting a little bit of extra engineering isn't too bad. More energy, even better. Yeah, I'm happy with this. As for this colony, the only other thing I can really think of would be to switch to social research. And looks like somebody moved. All right, well, there's not a whole lot I can do about that. I mean, I've got free migration, right? So it's only if a human winds up taking up like some mining tile that I really want somebody else to work on. So I think we're going to sit on these for now, and we will consider building another colony ship. Maybe not the smartest move right now, but I kind of want to. I mean, you'll notice that just for this playthrough, because I've had the option to expand so quickly, I really want to prioritize building up as much, building as much sort of labor and resources as I can. Now the drawback is that I'm going to be paying a bit in terms of naval capacity, because as I continue to build out new colonies and such, my cap is going to keep going up. And I am eventually going to need to fill out my needs. But in terms of just relative strength, if we take a look, everybody's sort of listed as equivalent, right? The Otoga Union has a superior naval power, or fleet power, but I think this is more a function of the fact that they're actually at their capacity rather than the fact that we're necessarily inferior. I am also particularly interested in the fact that my closest ally... Oh no, not my closest ally. It's like the Han Moor. So I'm going to guess that these guys won't want vassalization.
Research complete.
My guess is that probably the first war we're going to see is between these two. Which is a little bit of a shame, because it would be nice if I could kind of go in and like scoop these guys up. But we'll see. Alright, so scanning the star unveils a small object in rapid orbit. Its small size and high velocity make it difficult for our sensors to isolate. Research it. And we got our railguns, so... Well, I could go for advanced railguns. Now, I think... So mineral silo doesn't make a ton of sense for me right now, but the mineral processing plant is good because of the bonus 10%. So the real question is, do I go for destroyers, which are a good unit to have, or mineral processing? Mineral processing just takes such little time to produce, and I'm actually able to switch out a scientist for it. I think I'm comfortable boosting the speed for a little bit. Oop, should have seen that coming. All right, so we can do AI-controlled colony ships. Now that's, I mean, I've always had difficulty with this one just by virtue of the fact that, so the build cost is lower, but we've pretty much maxed out our colony ships for the next little while. Development speed, again, sort of tempting, but we're kind of done our colony. I mean, I don't want to do research just for this one. We already said assist research isn't too useful for us right now, but I do like cold fusion power, so we'll go with that even though it's kind of one of the more expensive ones.
Construction complete.
The probability conundrum. We have gotten a report from Science Officer Kang Shen. It seems that a ceramic container is circling the star Oralti. Most peculiar. It should obviously not be there, yet somehow it has managed to find its way into close orbit. A special project can be issued to investigate the container and try to deduce how it ended up there. A conundrum worth investigating.
Updated.
I guess I should finish... Again, I'm probably going to get interrupted doing this stuff. As soon as Kang Shen gets to level 5, we're going to be finishing off these research projects. All right. Still building robots. Still building robots. Still building colony ships. And we're almost done constructing something here, but we can knock out a couple more corvettes. So yeah, I will, as an overall thing, I don't know if this is a function of the patch or not, but it feels like this is probably one of the more low-key starts that I've had to Stellaris. Definitely not sad about it, because I've wound up in a couple of situations where I just kind of get a big gang of horrible things surrounding me and beating the crap out of me. But I know it doesn't necessarily make for the most exciting viewing experience. Where the hell do I want to go with this? So I don't have any energy resources to exploit right now. I think we'll just finish building out on our twos. And we should have a colony ship fairly soon. Better than spawning inside a xenophobic fawn empire. My feeling exactly, JT Bird AAC, and welcome to the stream. Yeah, I mean, I've had enough starts on like private games where, you know, where it's been fireworks at the very start, and it just makes me sad and wondering why I play this game. It doesn't hurt to have a nice one. I mean, especially for the purposes of a, you know, a slightly friendlier introduction to the game for friends. So incidentally, if you guys want to know some streamers who I kind of get along with, there's no promises. I mean, so the worst thing I could possibly do would be to speak on these people's behalf in terms of saying is like, oh yeah, they're totally going to start streaming this game. But in particular, Dynamite, Jesse Quill, and Johnny Big Time are all streamers who picked up Stellaris as part of that Humble Monthly. It's kind of the Humble Monthly bundle. Jesse Quill is actually an affiliate with that program, so I know a few of you wound up buying Stellaris through that. I definitely appreciate that because Jesse Quill is a definitely very dear friend and my only moderator. But in any case, so I know they are they're definitely people who I think would like to have feel a little bit stronger in their understanding of Stellaris. The only question I have is if I want to go in the middle here or on this tile. I guess it makes more sense to go in the middle because I want to develop all of these. So heritage site's good. We finished our queue. I think we can afford at least one more Corvette. I don't know if I want to buy the... Oh, no, I'll buy the second. Because I've got enough left kind of in the tank to build something else with my construction ship. But anyways, so these are some friends who I know want to get into the game, and, you know, I definitely want to play multiplayer with them. Whether or not that translates into something that we do on stream, I'm not so sure. I know I tried a stream of Crusader Kings with Jess before, and it was good in some senses, and it was really frustrating in another. So we'll see whether or not we can pull something like that off. But in any case, for the purposes of like hey, let's think a little bit about what kind of decisions we can make at the beginning of a Stellaris game. I don't think I could have asked for a better start. I think the only thing that I kind of need to work out right now is just in the back of my head, like, where do I sort of want to push? So a good example here is you'll notice that a lot of my science resources are completely unexplored. And this is going to be fairly important as my empire grows, because if you take a look at where the devil did my technology go? So if you take a look at the time that it takes to research something, right? We've got 4 planets, which is a plus 30% cost, 36 pops, plus 26%. So plus 56% to our research costs. That's not great. And it's debatable that we've really built out the infrastructure to overcome the sort of the deficiencies that we have through our our expansion. Now, the hope here, of course, is that the advantages that I'll gain in terms of just being able to build so much more, so on and so forth, will wind up, will sort of cover me for this. But you can see, right? Like this is not necessarily an ideal state of affairs as far as my my research is concerned. So I do want to improve this. I am slightly constrained by energy, especially because I do want to take advantage of the fact that I can basically, like one of the nice things about having droids, as long as you're able to keep a handle on your energy credits, you basically get to build 2 population a turn. Within reason. Like, I mean, there are some things that will sort of prevent you from being able to do that, but that's kind of what this translates into. And it's like, it's a great thing to have. So I want to be very conscious of the fact that I have a big advantage by being able to put droids. And I mean, there is like a story reason for doing this, right? We did sort of model this on some of those early sort of, I don't think this wouldn't have existed, the term communism wouldn't have existed with these groups, but like obviously we are relying on the fact that these people are sort of they're relying on the fact that they don't have to have individual participation in labor. All right, nukes aren't my favorite, but it's my best option here, so we might as well go for it. Construction ship. I think we're going to continue to focus on mining. So the main reason why I'm doing this is I know that my next Unity upgrade is going to be for discovery. And so the reasoning here, if we go under traditions, so under discovery, research station build cost reduced by 33%. As long as I get 4 research stations built before the next election, I'll have fulfilled the mandate. And so, and I just think for me, the time that it takes to build those, the time that it takes me to sort of build those new stations, like not being able to exploit those resources, I'm okay with the cost of having slightly lower research while I get the bonus to my minerals, because in the end, those minerals are going to mean that I can sort of close this gap on my naval capacity sooner than later. Of course, also freeing up those resources will mean that I can start building some more improvements in general to sort of support my infrastructure. Again, energy is now a priority. And it's not, I mean, we're suffering quite a bit just because we've got 2 colonies on the go. So if you take a look, it should have it here. Colonization cost -8. So we'll be in the black once the colonization is done. But the key here, right, is that I simply do not have enough energy to support all of these upgrades in these sectors. And that's going to be what that's going to be what these colonies are supporting. And then number 2, it's going to basically be motivating my next few sort of construction decisions. So for instance, probably I'm going to prioritize the upgrades of power plants on Oros. I might use some of these empty tiles to generate some more power on Despad. I also probably want to start putting some things into upgrading these capitals, because they will help me with my Unity, which will lower my costs and will also increase my power. 579? Yeah, I think I can afford that. I'm mostly just thinking relative to what I want to do with construction ships, and I should probably be building spaceports. 360? Yes, I am comfortable doing this.
Colony established.
All right. I might have spoken too soon. Let's just think about what we're going to do. So we will prioritize social research here. The one shame is we've got a big bonus to energy credits and no real energy credit tiles. So I'm going to think just a little bit about how I expand out my tiles. In reality, these tiles are going to be cleared way before I access any of this stuff, but I wanted to make sure at least the first few were sort of cleared out in case I needed some options. So as usual, we start off by building a robot right away. Building a robot. Not building a robot. For shame. So again, all of these things are going to be costing me energy. But there's ways, in the end, there's ways of managing it. So it's just more, so the nice thing here is that we're fairly good in terms of the sort of the means of getting what we want. And it's just a little bit more about making sure that we don't. So if we expand too fast, as tempting as it is to just do this massive expansion, this is something that can cause us to collapse pretty quickly. Like, I'm only going to be able to build 2 more robots right now, right? Like, it's not just that I want this thing to be positive, I actually want to make sure I have a balance that will allow me to continue improving my infrastructure at the rate that I've been able to do this. And there isn't like, so if you really want, like, you can sit down and you can get really twitchy about all of this and is like, oh God, maybe I'm going to do, one of these things and then one of these, and maybe I'm going to take advantage of this movie, like, and the game equips you to sort of be able to see roughly where you're assigning everything. Like, this is not the hardest thing in the world to manage. But I just think just kind of keeping in the back of your head is like, okay, here's roughly what I can accomplish right now. Here's sort of what I want to do within the next few turns. And I think as long as you can keep that in the back of your mind, you'll usually be okay. So we tried everything in order to find out how the ceramic pot ended up in a stellar orbit. Maybe we're all crazy. Maybe it does not even exist. Guess what? We tried calculating all those facts as well. We're done. There's nothing more we can do here. The only plus side to this is that we had tons of times to spend on philosophical and economical questions when we could not stomach to keep investigating that damned thing. Why? All right. And I need to decide what I want to do with my influence again. Oh, also what I want to do with my construction ship. I thought I told him to build a mining platform, but apparently I was wrong. All right, so we've already got Spirit of Science, so unless I want to do Capacity Overload, but again, 15% on 8 energy is not something that drives me wild. So what we're going to do is take a quick look at our planets. So this might be an argument for also, I should be looking at the raw amount that I'm producing, which is 20. Rashern, thank you very much for that host. Feels like it's been a while. Thank you very much for that. So 20% bonus on single-digit research. You know what? I think we are going to do a capacity overload. Yeah, it didn't set me on fire, but I am doing quite well, sir. How are you doing? I don't recall. Are you a Stellaris fan at all? Should mention to you guys, I think this is where I met you, Rashern. Rashern I know through Kitch. Now, Kitch is another one of these wonderful streamers who I don't get a chance to see as often because I went and moved to the eastern side of Canada. Definitely a guy who is worthy of your attention, as is Rashern. Haven't played it yet, you were interested in it. I mean, so I don't know if you're a big Paradox game player, Rashern, but I know, like, for me, I like saying that this is kind of the gateway drug to Paradox games. It more closely resembles a 4X strategy game than Atmospherics readings from Rantry 6A do not match simulated projections. This game is more close to it's more close to sort of civilization and endless space and such. It still has a level of complexity, but I think it's much more friendly to new players. And as a result, I mean, it has some differences. So, like, this is one of the few Paradox games where you have sort of this nice symmetrical start for the most part. But I think there's, again, like, this is exactly the science fiction game that I felt needed to be made. It's this nice canvas on which you can tell these sort of science fiction stories. I can maybe show you at the end of the cast just how many species I've created specifically just for the purposes of making these fun little stories. And there's a lot of variety inside of it. And then the other thing that's really nice is that Paradox has very openly embraced modding. And so the other nice thing about that, in addition to the fact that Paradox adds a lot of DLC and some corresponding free patches, you also get to see a lot of activity in terms of just sort of community work being done. And there's already a Star Wars mod, there's a Star Trek mod, there's a Mass Effect mod, there's a Halo mod. Like there's a lot going on. And the funny thing is, I'm not a big mod guy, so I'm largely missing out on this sort of stuff. But all right, so let's take a look at our technology options. Again, the way I always look at this is I consider the cost of the technology in the form of what I'm giving up for it. So in this case, we have the ability to terraform. I mean, that's very tempting for trying to grab some of these more desirable planets over here, and strategic resources that assist me in terraforming. Adaptive bureaucracy. Now that's kind of tempting because we don't have enough leaders to be able to govern all of our planets, but I'm actually okay with that. And then again, we got another purple one. Chemical bliss is really tempting. I'll show you roughly what that looks like. I think it's under rights, so living standards. So you can do social welfare. This will improve. So basically, all of this sort of improves different happiness levels. Chemical bliss, it gives me a nice bonus of like making everybody really happy, but it also comes to the drawback of like making them not good at what they do. So they get minuses to like food, minerals, energy credits, unity output, so on and so forth. I would be tempted to do utopia and abundance, but I don't think happiness is a big problem that I have right now, so I'm gonna avoid that. And I think the fact that I don't have a good way of offsetting all of these penalties to basically drugging my population, and I mean that we can talk about the opium of the people, but I think it's pretty clear I'm not going to go for that technology. So we say, okay, do I want to improve the bureaucracy and potentially also gain more influence, or do I want to terraform? I think it's fairly obvious that terraforming is more important to me right now. And in terms of the cost, 10 months is not trivial. But I think the benefits that we'll gain by being able to extend our reach. I've also never researched terraforming, so. I also keep forgetting to read, there is no simple solution to the problem of macro-scale reshaping of planetary crusts, only bigger trowels and orbitally deployed drills. Only mod you played is the Game of Thrones mod and Elise LTTA. Sorry, I didn't say hi before. Welcome. It is very, very detailed. I think it's one that appeals more to people who have read the books than to somebody who has just watched the TV show. I quite like it. I actually think it's a very impressive bit of work, but it is... I found it quite difficult to wrap my head around at first. Although I think this, you could say the same about Crusader Kings in general, so that's not... Man, did I already finish this droid? Oh no, there's right there. I think I'm going to have to start making some hard decisions soon. You read the book years ago? I have the first 2 or 3. Immense ragged plains of shadow drift across Raltree 6A's face. They are cast not by clouds, but by sheets of organic material drifting throughout the upper layers of the atmosphere, hinged, or rather jointed, to allow for a small degree of articulation. Science Officer Kang Shen is as yet unwilling to say whether these things are flora or fauna, or what possible purpose, if any, their elaborate shadow casting might serve. So, if we get to colonize it, or not colonize it, but if we add it to our sphere of influence, that's 6 social research. That would actually finally catch us up. We're going to be waiting a while on that. Okay, construction ship is idle, so we need to get it to work. And again, we are going to pursue material resources. Oh my goodness. I mean, I know the books are fairly old. I'm just late to the party on them, but...
I would never want to belong to any club.
Gordonwin, thank you very much for that follow. I appreciate that. It's been a pretty low-key cast tonight, so that's maybe another thing that... Obviously, like I said earlier, it means a lot to have people who come back, right? It's something that I think, you know, in some ways you can sort of take for granted as a streamer. I don't mean to like say that ungratefully, but like it's one of these things you can sort of do because, you know, if any channel that survives is going to sort of have sort of its regulars, for lack of a better term. But like I said earlier, it does actually mean a lot to have some familiar faces coming in and to be able to, even just little things like being able to remember what we talked about and, you know, see casters who I like to be able to come in. But also when you guys hang out when maybe the stream isn't action-packed, that also means quite a bit as well. So thank you for that. All right. So we got our nukes. Let's think about this for a little bit. So Therian power plant is actually my ideal. I do want to improve my spaceport, but I believe we have at least one power plant that can take advantage of that. I will say one complaint about Stellaris. It is the fact that this has such a wonderful soundtrack. Yeah. That is exactly what I'm building. That's going to take care of my power needs for a while. I should probably consider building some frontier outposts just to sort of link all of these worlds, but I don't know if that's very cost effective. We briefly detected some unusual energy readings emanating from this planet. It might have been a glitch in our systems, or it could be a sign of something more. So, I have the soundtrack for this game, but unfortunately what they added for Utopia is beautiful and not downloadable. So this particular track, the Imperial Fleet, I do not believe is available to me. I should double check that though. I'll let the game run in the background and I'll take a quick look and just make sure that my soundtrack folder has not Alright, so far as I can tell, I do not see the Imperial Fleet here. So we're just gonna be quiet and enjoy this song. Elise, that's a good question. So I'll definitely, I mean, I hope you guys feel welcome to do this already, but I'm definitely going to open that up to the cast because I think there's a lot, quite a few more readers. Now, Elise, are you looking for science fiction? Because I actually have a couple of suggestions that I might make myself. Now, one of the challenges is that I have... So when I was growing up, my mom had cancer, and we had a lot of sort of road trips to the city that was closest to us, Vancouver, for that treatment. And my dad used to listen to a lot of BBC sort of radio dramas and like comedy programs. And it was more geared towards adults, not in the sense that the humor was sort of a little, adult, but it was more so just in terms of what was said. So like Yes Minister and Rumpole of the Bailey. And what this has meant is that my vocabulary has always been a little bit higher compared to my peer group. I say this just because this has shaped my book recommendations. And sometimes this has meant that I've given things that are a little too challenging. But Elise, LTTA, I think if you are looking for science fiction, one of the things I've really enjoyed with the Stellaris patches have been to go and read the authors that the patches are named after. And a game that I really enjoyed, a book that I really enjoyed, and I really enjoyed when I was in school, was The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Now, there's some of the jokes involve a little bit of wordplay, but I don't think The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is too challenging of a book. And I actually read that out loud to somebody recently, and it was a short read, and it was a very fun one. So I'll actually write this in chat. It's actually but yeah, so that's that would be where I'd start. Now, my apologies in advance if that's a little too challenging. I don't think it should be too hard, but definitely follow up. Like even if you don't watch the cast a whole lot, like if you just hang out for today and you say it's not that, if the book is too challenging, like even just drop me a message in Twitch and I will give you a recommendation that's a step down. But I loved that book when I first read it, and that's what the current patch is named after, so I had to put that one out. And guys, please, in chat, I mean, I understand if you guys just want to lurk, that's totally fine, but sharing is one of the best things. It's one of the things that I love about Twitch. It's one of the reasons why I cast on Twitch. So if you have a book that moved you, whether it's science fiction, fantasy, anything, feel free to share with Elise, LTTA. So yeah, Neil Gaiman is a good one. Both the novels, even the comics, right? I mean, the comics are a little, I think the themes are definitely complex, but I think the dialogue isn't always that hard. A microsingularity recently intersected Raltree 5, passing straight through the core and emerging on the other side of the planet. The encounter does not seem to have caused any permanent damage, but it has altered the energy output of the planetary core slightly in a way that defies our current scientific models. Further study may be warranted. Uncle Elias has also got... I actually have Foundation sitting beside me. One of the things that's nice about Foundation 2 is it's nice and short. Like, it's the first Foundation is 236 pages in a nice little paperback version that I have here. The first story I read was really engaging. Like, I jumped into it right away, and it's it's nice and bite-sized. So it's one of these things where if you're in a rush and you just want to get a quick hit, it's not too taxing to read. I hear you there, Rouge Light Girl. I've noticed I've gotten a little bit slower in reading, but You've read a lot of his books in Russian language. Oh, that's excellent. Yeah. So you must have read Stanislaw Lem then. I've only watched I've watched Solaris, the Tarkovsky one, before I watched the American one. I actually like both, but the Tarkovsky one's very different. Brian Aldiss is another good one. A microsingularity recent... Oh, sorry, I think I just read this. Yeah. So do we have a special event that came from that? Nope.
Construction complete.
I don't think I've read any long form by Brian Aldiss, if I'm completely honest. I think I need to upgrade my monuments.
Situation
I don't have the money though.
completed.
We've encountered some form of alien vessel in the Ibaka system. These strange objects have been flagged as Theta aliens until we can learn more about them. Where are you?
Hostile fleet.
Oh my god! Sound design on this is great. Just listen to that. If you guys are interested, so I know, I think Paradox rightly, I mean, I've had a little bit of a love-hate relationship with Paradox, if I'm totally honest. And I don't think that's bad, right? Because I think Paradox themselves have said when they, you know, that when they've kind of let people down, this is I've never seen one of these things before. This is cool. God, look at that. God, where was I going with it? Yeah, I mean, I actually don't think that's a bad relationship to have with a game developer, because as soon as you start sort of saying, you know, as soon as you start kind of accepting them as sort of the last word, independent of whatever they've done, that's usually going to lead to some stagnation. I think it's important to have a respectful, but a, you know, kind of an equally footed, like, so here's the thing, right? Like, we're consumers, right? It is the job of a developer to make us happy, because, you know, if they don't, like, they're not going to get money, right? We're not going to buy the product. We don't, you know, you don't really owe somebody a living. But on the other hand too, right? Like, there is, like, one way you could guarantee to make all of your fans happy is like, oh, we're going to give everything away for free. Well, that's not sustainable, right? No, I don't think anybody reasonably expects a developer to do that. But anyways, where was I going about this? Because I said, oh yeah, so all of that's just a long throat clearing to say Paradox definitely seems to attract a lot of very dedicated fans. So I think a lot of you have probably already checked out the ParadoxCon videos. But if you haven't, there was I unfortunately don't remember this gentleman's name, but they did have a presentation with their sound designer, which I thought was a lot of fun to watch. And he did a really nice job of sort of explaining some of the, well, one, explaining what he does, and then two, kind of going into the background of some of the sound design for these games. So if you want to know, like, what went into that sound design, check out that talk. I had a lot of fun watching it. I also really liked Sikanor's talk on sort of building an audience on Twitch. I will admit, I don't think that Twitch people contributed a lot to the conversation, but with, of course, due respect to them, I know it's hard to go up on a stage and present, but I thought Sikanur did quite well in that presentation. I quite liked what he had to say. It's a little tough too, because I know I encouraged a couple of people to check out his talk, and I'm not entirely sure that some of the advice that they took away from it was the most appropriate for their particular stream, but I thought it was, I don't know. I think by and large it was he told people the right thing. All right, I should have started building a robot. Here's a question for you guys. So I picked up the first 3 culture novels by Ian Banks. I'm interested in them, and people have told me they're worth it. But is that something that you could By the way, I think I called you Elise, but it's Elsie, isn't it? LTTA. Sorry, I'm really, I just kind of, I usually look at the content of what people say rather than the names, so my apologies to those of you whose name, I mean, Rouge Light Girl can tell you that I called her Roguelike Girl forever. All right, I'm probably going to go for Discovery, but it doesn't hurt to go over this tree again and just kind of plan out for the next little while of our civilization. But yeah, I'm interested in reading them. I bought them and I plan to read them myself, but would anybody recommend that for Elsie? Because I know they're really popular, but I don't know what the difficulty level is. I know he's Scottish, so just, I don't know, it just generally feels like writers from the UK tend to have a little bit more of a formal writing style. But again, I've never read Banks, so I can't say that for myself. All right, so what does Discovery give us? Well, it gives us a discount to research stations. Culture should be okay. All right. I know exactly. Oh yeah, sure, Elsie. I mean, it's a process of discovery, right? Like I said, it's one of these things that if you know, even if you find out like after the fact that it's something a little bit more than what you can handle, come back. I'll try and come up with something else. And it's a little different for everybody. And I think also too, there are books that are really engaging. And so even if they're a little more difficult to read, I think they're still rewarding enough that people will follow through on them. But Ian Banks, the culture novels, somebody can link them in chat, and or maybe like a Wikipedia entry. I think that would be another series you like. If as I'm saying specifically for science fiction, there's other fiction that I can recommend too, but it is Stellaris, so of course I'm gonna recommend those. All right, so what does Discovery get us? The biggest one right now is I have a mandate to build research stations. That's also one of my biggest expense. It's going to be one of my biggest expansion expenses. So that gives it a really big recommendation. It's going to make my faction like me more. Now, of course, I'm already kind of at the peak for my influence, so that's not the biggest argument that I have for it, but it's a good one. Anomaly fail risk decreasing alongside with gaining research points as I survey planets. Recruitment for scientists, not too crazy about. Leader skill levels, that is good. And then assist research increases planet happiness, but again, I'm not really going to be doing assisting research. But when we max out the tree, we get a bonus 10% to research speed. You've read all of Hemingway's books you could find at the shops in your place. Something was very challenging, but it was okay for you to read. That's fantastic. Hemingway is a great place to start. I will also say, Elsie, so in terms of literature, I am a very big fan of George Orwell. And I think the two obvious ones for George Orwell would be Animal Farm and 1984. But I also think his essays are excellent. And even, the nonfiction ones. So Homage to Catalonia, Shooting an Elephant, even his essay on making tea. Orwell he wasn't necessarily the best writer, but he was the most honest. And I think, I don't know, there's something really special about his writing. I will always be able to come back and read Orwell and find something out of it. So what are some of the other things that I can take a look here? Prosperity. Prosperity is really tempting because of the bonus or the discounts to like ship building costs, ship upkeep, building upkeep, things like that. So that's going to free up a lot of my resources. But I think I'm still at a point where I can sort of build up on what I already have. So prosperity is tempting, but not overriding. Harmony will give me bonuses to happiness. Again, I don't have a big happiness problem right now. So is there something at the end of this? Well, consumer goods maybe. What about the individual, unrest? Just generally all of these sort of subcategories. This is a little funny. I thought they fixed this. Anyways, I haven't quite been sold on harmony yet. What about domination? Well, first of all, we're not really going to be going to war. So unless there's something really great inside of here, I mean, it's just like vassals and subject integration and things like this. It's tempting, but like it just seems really inappropriate for where I am right now. Again, I measure every decision that I make in this game against what I'm giving up. And if I'm giving up prosperity or I'm giving up discovery, domination had better give me something to what I consider to be prosperity and discovery. Oh, yeah. I didn't read Day of the Triffids in school. I read his other book, The Chrysalids. That's another good one. Diplomacy. So diplomatic influence cost reduced by 50%. Now, I'm not really doing any diplomatic influence, so I don't really need that. Although trust growth is good. That might even help me out with our current antagonists. As far as, so being able to form federations are kind of nice, although honestly with the AI, I've never found federations to be particularly useful. The unity bonuses may be all right, but I think we're going to go it alone for the next little while. Habitability is somewhat tempting, although again, we're definitely not short on, cores. So it's hard for me to say that this is really important for me. Supremacy. So border range is actually a tempting thing to get, just because we'll be able to add in, some of these contested areas. What else do we get? Bonuses to fire rate, ship build speeds. I mean, again, I would probably be deciding between domination and supremacy. The big thing is that because it'll make a faction happy and because it will help me with the things that I'm going to be doing most directly, I think discovery and so really for me, the decision is between discovery and prosperity. And because discovery is something that will help one of my factions, as well as just generally help my, my scientific output, that's the reason I'm going for it here. This is also going to free up a lot of different options for me in terms of how I build out my infrastructure. So, anyways, sorry guys, I know that was a really long explanation for something I said I was going to do before, but sue me. I'm really debating as to whether or not I want to put a frontier outpost to connect these areas.
Complete. Construction complete.
And these people really like moving away from this this building. All right. Keep building. I am mildly tempted to build more spaceports. Deep within a crevice on the giant asteroid WX-12-3PO, we have found something astonishing. There's mining gear attached to the rock, digging itself into the vast depth of the asteroid. It stands abandoned with no sign of who placed it there. If we can stop the machine, we might be able to learn something about the technology used to build it, but we must hurry before random debris crushes it. So we can try and stop the machine, or we can scrap it for materials. Now, 1,000 materials is really, really strong. But I don't remember what drill rampage gives me. So let's try and stop the machine. So this is a timed event, and we need a construction ship in order. So as much as it pains me to do this, we are going to halt our construction for the next little bit.
Survey complete.
All right, Pathfinder's done its job, so I think we're just going to continue to boldly go where no man has gone before. I wanted to take a quick word here about this planet here. So I'm not able to really show you what the surface looks like, but it says Gaia world. This is the class of this planet. Each species has a planet class that they consider ideal, and habitability decreases as planets deviate from this norm, which in turn decreases happiness. Gaia world, an ideal temperate world with a nitrogen-oxygen atmosphere and a resilient ecosystem. Optimal conditions for all known higher forms of life at different latitudes. So the idea here is that this is basically an ideal planet for everybody. The only thing, so one, this is swarming with aliens. Speaking of which, 3 months is not a long time to wait for that research. It's just a size 10, so it's not like it's not the crown jewel or anything like that.
Construction complete.
Now, a 22 continental world, on the other hand, is a very tempting one. So what I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this science ship, and we're actually going to start exploring sort of my frontiers, because we've been neglecting our research. Or we've been neglecting our exploration on these parts of the system. Governor Yaroslav Zhirov has leveled up and gained the trait Resilient. I'm not quite sure I need a resilient governor, but good for him. So this is mostly just to see what we've got going on here. I mean, I could potentially build some frontier outposts if I thought there were some worthwhile resources to be taking, but we'll take it as it goes, right? There's no need to go crazy with all of this. Thank you for the advice. I'll try and give it a feedback. Fun little fact, you follow your channel for a pretty long time. Just my time is approximately 9 p.m. right now. Your time is 11 a.m. That's the problem why you rarely appear on the stream, but I'll try to catch you online next time. Well, Elsie, I appreciate that. I did notice that you were a follower. I didn't see, as you mentioned, it's a name that wasn't immediately apparent to me. But I appreciate you staying with the channel for so long, and I will admit that the start time has always been a little bit challenging. Obviously, as I say down below, my start time is somewhere anywhere between like 7 to 9 p.m. I've been starting a little bit later lately. I'm going to try and get a little bit better at that, and when weekends come along, I'm going to try and maybe cast at some times that are a little bit more friendly to some of the European hours. I mean, obviously European hours are not the only ones that I have, but like just something that's a little bit more, like when I moved from BC, it used to work well that there would be some people in London who used to watch me. It would work well. Some people in Germany, that would work well. And I really did them an injustice by completely switching all the times, but that was just what happened in my life. But yeah. I'm definitely still trying to work out something that works well for me as well as everyone else. But I do have to say, Elsie, it means a lot that you did hang out and you stayed long enough for us to have this evening. So even if I don't get a chance to see you again, I consider myself very lucky that your follow still allowed me to have this. So. It's amusingly good for you midday onwards. Yeah, that I mean, again, it's always challenging, right? Like it's as I said before, right? I never want to take a view for granted, and I never want to treat viewers as just a number. But clearly, when you change time zones, you lose some people and you gain others, and that's just a very natural thing to happen to a cast. And insofar as I'm able to do different times, I want to try and support that. And for the times I'm not able to meet people's expectations, I think the best that I can do is just be very clear about it. So, oh, that's wonderful. I don't get too many questions on Ask FM, although I also don't know if my answers are any good, so there might be a reason. But yeah, I really do appreciate it. The reports of strange, free-floating, crystal-like... yeah, we need, I guess, Rouge Light Girl, I guess we just need the Silmarillion to start filming in New Zealand, right? The reports of strange, free-floating, crystal-like objects observed in certain systems have been investigated. The ship-sized objects and their slightly smaller but equally crystal-like satellites have appeared inert, but sudden shifts in their orientation relative to our ships and new energy signatures emerging from within the prisms indicate that they should be regarded as hazardous and approached with caution. We can either attempt to engage with the potentially dangerous objects directly or establish remote surveillance and observe them from a safe distance. We will remotely study them. Life signs have been detected from coming inside the atmosphere of this gas giant. Could it indicate the presence of some kind of biosphere? And we will do this physics research. Rouge Light Girl is from New Zealand, Elise. Alright, back to our old problem. What do we do about Edict? So I've already got Spirit of Science and Capacity Overload. Also, I want to, before I do anything else, I actually want to make sure that my spaceports are where they need to be. Obviously, I haven't upgraded any of them yet. That's going to be Phase 2. So next question is, where do I put my Edict? Let's sort this by output. I think there's an argument for putting a Spirit of Science here. And what does my leadership look like? Yeah, we're 10 out of 10, so. Oh, that's because my previous it's because my previous admiral was odd. Maybe she's in transit? The Otoga Union has declared the Han-Mur interstellar nation their rival. This will significantly worsen their diplomatic... Ah, these are the bad guys. Okay. We've discovered a thriving ecosystem in the upper atmosphere of the gas giant Yump-1. Massive floating creatures having evolved bodies filled with lighter-than-air gases follow the wind currents and feed off the energy released by the gas giant's frequent lightning storms. These beings in turn support colonies of smaller animals that prey on the atmospheric plankton and each other. Okay, so we're now equivalent to these guys. The one thing I will say, so there's a little bit of diplomacy I need to think about here. So these guys are beginning to sort of wane a bit in their power. There may be an argument, especially because we get along well with these guys, and the fact that they're hegemonic imperialists. We may want to do something like a defensive pact. Now, the main reason for wanting to do that is because what this does is this kind of creates a bit of a balance of power. The challenge is I have a feeling that they're also going to be not getting along very well with these guys. And I don't necessarily want to get thrown into some kind of a founder species? What are these guys? I don't know if this is a bug or if these guys have some special, have like the slave civic. Yeah, Mandrusa. So I guess the leaders of Mandrusa and the Hulfir are the... Huh, funny. But yeah, so there's a bit of a... So the obvious step would be vassalize these guys and then just slowly expand out this way. Another argument would be to, you know, band together against the stronger empire. The challenge is that if I go into a defensive pact and these guys don't like each other, then I get myself involved in a fight that I don't want to. So right now I'm still going to remain independent, and in terms of relative strength, like I'm comfortable where I am. Right, we're at least equivalent, and I know I've got quite a bit of runway in terms of building up my ships. I am, however, starting to run into some difficulty in terms of being able to expand. So I do definitely want to take advantage of Tiam, and I should eventually start thinking about colonizing some of these less hospitable planets, but that's going to involve the creation of some sectors. Anyways, the crystalline entities. The name itself is a compromise between rival factions of xenobiologists and xenogeologists on Oros, are probably alive. An earlier and perhaps more descriptive name for them was silicate animate matter, as they have little in common with biological life. They are solitary beings, with each individual crystal sovereign rarely seen with more than a sentinel and a smaller cohort and entity. Aside from the cohort and sentinel clearly being subservient to the sovereign of the group, the subtle nuances of the crystalline entities' socio-hierarchical relationships are lost on us. The entities do not seem to mate, and we have yet to observe any crystals that are recognizably older or younger than others. Contrary to an earlier hypothesis, shifts in hue between individual crystalline entities seem not to be related to their age, but to their latent internal charge, which can be violently unleashed. And it appears as though sporadic fluctuations in this charge alter the refractive properties of the crystal. Find some practical use for this information. As the crystal sonar modifier to your empire, spend 30 energy to instantly survey any crystalline entity system when entered. So one nice thing about this is if I wanted to move my science ship back in here, I could spend 30 energy and I would immediately have this surveyed for me. I'll maybe leave this for one last bit of Q&A, guys. I think I need to get to bed, unfortunately. As I said, I know it's only been a couple of hours. Definitely is when it comes to a game like this, I prefer to cast it longer, and my usual time is to try and do a 4-hour cast, but I did get a late start, and I've noticed that the times I've done the later starts, I tend to pay for it at work the following day, so I am going to be a little bit stricter on my bedtime, if you can forgive me for that. But I will, I usually am pretty leisurely about how I wrap this stuff up. So I would love to open the floor to any questions or comments. And I got to think about what I got to build on here. So an energy grid doesn't strike me as the strongest thing that I can do right now. Let me just think about this a bit. Yeah, the most I could do would be 3 power plants. I think we're just going to do a straight up power plant on this one. Okay, we've got our cold fusion power. Let's pause it and see where we're going. But yeah, so I'll encourage you guys, if you do have any questions or comments about the game, I'm happy to answer them right now. But we are going to be wrapping up the playthrough, and whether or not I get to do Stellaris during the rest of the week, I'll have to decide. But I will try to make sure that next Monday I do a nice, healthy playthrough of the game, so that we can maybe sink into some of the substance that I haven't covered. Now, as for the rest of this, let's think a bit. So these are 2 very different takes on combat. Subspace sensors is tempting just because of the additional sensor range. It's also one of the more expensive. So Disruptor, the thing is that I really like my melee, or my like, so here's the thing, right? My level 3 kinetic weapon already does a lot of shield damage. So it's hard for me to say that a Disruptor is really what I need to be using right now. Red Laser will at least sort of even out my my arsenal. But I think I really do want to wind up. No, okay, you know what? We will do though. It's because it matches this guy as well. This is probably a really dumb decision now that I think about it, but all right. Don't really have explosive weapons. I do think the better armor is the way to go here. Recently purchased this game, have no idea where to start. Stone Gullet, you have come to the right place. So first thing I'll say, I encourage you to check out the VOD. Actually, that reminds me, I should upload the last VOD to YouTube, but last week's VOD should be there. The main reason I'm doing, can I assume that you, I do have a YouTube, Stone Gullet. I don't know if it's linked down below, but I'll type it in chat for you. Actually, I gotta find it myself. The VOD from last week should also still be up. So I don't think you'll have too much trouble. You won't find last... Holy crap, it has been a while since I've uploaded something, so I will make sure I do that tonight. Anyways, that's the YouTube. My apologies for not updating that better. I will get on that. So I need to let you guys know, since I've joined the affiliate program, they're actually pretty precise on when you can upload your stuff. Technically, I shouldn't be uploading that until 24 hours have passed, and I usually tend to forget to do that. So actually, while I'm wrapping up for tonight, I will start uploading the old material, and this video will come online, let's say Thursday at the latest. But yeah, Stone Gullet, definitely check out the VODs for sure. Last time I played Stellaris, which should be a week ago tonight. And I can give you some very broad comments on it. So in-game tutorial will get you started. It's not necessarily going to make you a master, but I don't think any tutorial is going to. It's going to at least keep you from going astray. I would encourage you for your first couple of playthroughs, I would say
I would never want to belong
the
to any
default...
club.
Thank you very much for that follow, Stone Gullet. I'd say the default races are totally fine. By the way, Space Communism was the name of the... the VOD. But yeah, the biggest one for me is just finding different ways. It's basically on how to how do I minimize the degrees of freedom that I have? Because like anytime you play a Paradox game, like you have a ton of stuff in front of you. I'm just going to read this quick little bit of dialogue, and then I'm going to show you what I mean by what I'm talking about this. We managed to stop the excavator before it broke down. It's a remarkable piece of machinery with a smooth surface covered in diamonds. At first glance, the whole drill seems to be like one solid piece, but it's simply so well put together that you cannot notice the grooves and joints. Our engineers will be able to reverse engineer some of this technology. So we gained deep core mining and 20% increase towards it, so hopefully that's good. I can definitely put my construction ship back towards more productive activities. So actually, this will be instructive for me to talk about how I approach these decisions. But when I'm talking about degrees of freedom, right? So if you start by trying to create a species, you're going to need to decide on things that you don't know. And when you first play this game, you know, going from left to right, you've got 3 menus here, right? You don't really have anything inside here. So we'll say this is 4 menus just because you're going to only start with your species. Then 2 here. Victory doesn't really count, so I'll be nice and say that this is 5. Then you've got 3 here, so I'm going to count this as 8 because you've got all these subsections on here. and then 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and the outliner. And then individually you go to all these planets. Like, how the hell am I supposed to decide where to start? Played a little bit of Crusader Kings 2 and loved you, but you were horrible. This game seems way more up your alley. Well, you know, so the funny thing here, Stone Gullet, Crusader Kings is the first game that I learned, and I learned it on cast. I would argue that Crusader Kings is a game that could be defined as hard to learn, easy to master. I actually think, now that I think of it, the developer, I think, has actually described the game that way. And I think what it comes down to is more what you're interested in. So one thing about Crusader Kings 2 is it has asymmetric starts. You know, if you start and you're some, you know, little country with the wrong religion beside a giant empire, you are going to have a really bad time. Whereas this is the first Paradox game that I can think of that starts with more or less symmetric starts. I mean, we had somebody with like an advanced start down here, but that's like, you know, the fact that that had an advanced start does not mean, you know, hasn't translated in anything other than the fact that they are, that they're now equivalent power. So the one thing I do need to say about these games, whether it's Crusader Kings or whether it's Stellaris, is there's a little bit of buy-in. If you get into this game, if you get into Crusader Kings, if you get into any Paradox game, you're going to spend hundreds of hours in it. It's a very good value for money in that sense. But getting into it is the big problem. So what you want to basically do is you want to narrow your focus to as few things as you can. Now the nice thing is that Stellaris has basically every lesson that the Paradox Development Studio has learned throughout making games. So what I usually recommend is you start with your capital world. Right? The planet summary isn't really going to tell you a whole lot. And I didn't even know we didn't have a governor. Yeah, I was too, Rouge Lake Girl. And for me, it was actually specifically about the relationship between Lord and Vassal and the way that it sort of modeled its political relationships. But I think in the end, like, it depends on the player, right? Like, one of the things that I could say is that Stellaris, I think, is appealing because it's a big canvas on which it can tell science fiction stories, and on top of that, it has a lot more connection with sort of other 4X games like Civilization or Endless Legend or Endless Space. Oh yeah, Stone Gullet's got this. Yeah, there would be, you think the game that got you into 4X games would be a little game called Sword of the Stars, actually published by Paradox. And I didn't know Scott Manley played Stellaris. I really liked his Kerbal Space Program material. But yeah, the best that I can say is what you want to do is you just want to... These games are wonderful for their complexity, and you want to turn that to an advantage, not a defect of the game. So what you want to do is you want to say, I'm only going to focus on this one thing right now. And again, that's why I recommend starting with sort of a default race, because Paradox has already balanced those for you. And what you're going to say is like, I'm going to learn this one narrow part. I'm not going to look at the other things, and I'm going to learn this piece by piece. Because in this game, you can mouse over anything and it'll tell you what's going on. So I'm going to take one of my new colonies, right? Temperate terrain, diverse forested terrain with a mild climate. Okay, what does that have to do with anything? Well, I'm like, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I want to build a farm, right? Apple, apple. Oh, God, right? It'll tell you what you're losing. Now, what you do here is you say, it's like, okay, is it worth it for me to lose this one mineral? You know, one thing that I could say is that, well, what am I getting in exchange for that one mineral? Well, I'm getting 2 extra food. So that might be a good deal, except for the fact that I'm already at plus 21 food. It seems to me like food is not my biggest problem right now. I have, you know, plus 65 a turn on minerals, but I'm always running out of them. There's always something else to build. Speaking of which. Oh, are you serious? Okay, I'm going to unpause the game just so I can tick my... Oh, right. Actually, I needed to make a decision with my construction ship. So, for me, I usually just start on the world and I say, what is my highest priority for upgrading right now? And in the first video, you're actually going to see how we started with an energy deficit and how we turned that into a big surplus for ourselves. I'll give you another example of a principle that I tend to use when making decisions in a game like this. So I've got a construction ship, right? I know I've got 90 minerals that I can build something with, which is the average cost. And I've got a few different things that are open to me. So I know that I've got a research mandate right now, and I think I only have 2 more years in this administration. So I actually want to get on top of this stuff. Yeah, 2230. So I've been sitting on my hands a bit with this stuff. So I know that I want to be doing this science research. So I take a look here. First of all, I see 30 physics, 24 social, 23 engineering. This means that engineering and social should be my priorities. So I've got a 3 here. I've got a total of 7 in terms of minerals, but this is divided over 3 planets. I've got a 2, a 1, and a 4. Let's just see if those correspond to planets. So notice here, the 4 isn't on a single planet. So the idea here is that any research post that I make is going to wind up being, it's going to cost me 1 energy, and I'm going to get whatever I can sort of attach to it. So my highest priority right now is actually the social system. And the reason for that is it's actually 60 because I chose my discovery tradition. I'm going to spend 60 minerals and 1 energy a turn. I'm going to get 3 social research for that instead. Now, the next thing that I'm going to prioritize will probably be this engineering tile right here, because my engineering is the weakest one. So I'm going to lift up something that I'm a bit weak on. And it's because I don't have any other options in the immediate area. Actually, I guess there's this planet with a 3. I guess I can go over to Trappist to build it up, but it's going to take a while. So I think I might build my 4 science just in kind of in close proximity, so I can fulfill the mandate, and then I'll worry about upgrading. But notice the reasoning here, right? I said is like I'm going to define the cost of what I'm building in terms of what I'm giving up. I can only build 1 research platform. This is in one of my bottom 2 points. And I get 3 units of research where any other option for the same cost would get me less. Similar idea here. Let's say it's like, okay, 12 energy, not bad, but I'm getting 65 minerals. So let's say that I want to sort of even out my energy production, right? What's it going to cost me to upgrade my power plant? Well, it's going to cost me 90 for this power plant. Okay. What if I just said, okay, well, how about I build, a power plant here? Well, I can spend 90 to get 1 extra power on my capital world, or I can spend 30 to get 2 power on this colony. What I'm actually going to do is build the Betharian power plant, but that'll only happen after I have a capital. These are the sort of things that you want to think about, because in your opening turns, you're limited on resources, and those kinds of decisions are going to be what decide, it's sort of what decides how effective you're going to be. Generally, like for me, I like to make sure that I have my navy at full capacity, but I don't do it at the expense of, say, building some sort of resource extractors, right? I'm friendly with these guys. They would actually do a defensive pact with me. So yeah, we've got a little bit of border friction going on here right now, but I have nothing to worry about from them. All this time, I'm going to be able to just research cool new technology for my ships. I can use those mineral resources to sort of expand my ability to get more mineral resources. And because I know I don't have any immediate threats, I'm not going to be paying that energy and those minerals to sort of maintain my fleet. And what you want to do, if you just take a look at all of these menus and you say, okay, I have to learn everything all at once, you're going to freak out and the game's not going to be really fun. But if you just think of it one step at a time, and when I started this episode, I just went straight down the outliner. I'm like, I'm going to look at my planets first. I know that I need to upgrade my my military, but I also know that I want to build some more stations. So then I went to my construction ship. My science ships were already lined up. Incidentally, if you don't know this, you can hold down Shift and you can queue multiple orders. So if you want to research multiple planets, This guy's already got his research orders, so I don't need to constantly micromanage them. And then don't worry about factions because they won't start at the, like, you won't have those at the beginning of the game. But that's, you know, you may have a different path through which you play the game, Stone Gullet. But basically, if you work out in your head just a systematic way of saying, what do I want to turn into a priority, that's going to teach you the basics of what you need to know about the game. Also, I recommend don't play on Iron Man mode once you feel comfortable with the game. Don't play on Iron Man mode at the start, because there's something about being able to load from a previous save and say, okay, now that I know I get my ass kicked in that fight, what am I going to do differently? How do I build my fleet in a way that I can, you know, I can improve these sorts of things? And again, just learn it one menu at a time. Put a mouse over. If I'm online and you're running into something in your own game, absolutely feel free to drop a message inside of chat, and you know, I'll do my best to answer that for you. But the biggest thing is, for me, I get a lot of fun out of like sort of not role playing, but definitely sort of playing in character as a species. I'm actually going to go to the menu just to show you how much I dedicate to this. But yeah, like for me, this game appeals to me because I just tend to have a very ordered way of sort of thinking about these sorts of things. And so that was how I sort of went about improving my own understanding of the game. One other resource I forgot to mention, I don't think it'll show on, oh, drat. You know what, I'll actually load the game just so I can show you. If you go under, so it says friends here because I'm playing the Bradbury beta, but there's the wiki. This is maintained by Paradox, but the community contributes to this. There's a beginner's guide. I don't know. I mean, it couldn't hurt, right? This is a lot to read off the bat, so I would recommend the endgame tutorial first. But when you get to a point where you're like, I just don't get how this works in the game, like, go to this resource. It's built into the game for a reason, because it will go into some pretty granular detail about how these particular things work. And of course, more importantly, there's the forums. There's streamers like myself, and it, you know, they're definitely, like, to my view, the more people who enjoy this game, the better it is for me. In one sense, because of course that means more potential viewers, but also more people to potentially play the game with. I will let you in on a little secret. So what I like the most about this, except for the Rothrakian corporate assembly, not only do I create species, but I create little stories for them, right? All of these have been made. Like, I usually take about an hour to create a species in the game. This one won't have it because I made this with Johnny Big Time. This is the one that I'm currently playing. I cheated a little bit on this biography. But like, I have a lot of fun in creating the backstory for these things. That's just something that appeals to me about this game. That may not be what attracts you to the game. I mean, there's plenty of people who enjoy this game simply because it's like this massive spreadsheet with like really cool graphics. That's totally fine too. But for me, it's definitely been very rewarding to sort of create this little bit of a story. And sometimes, like, for me, another way that I've sort of constrained the decisions that I make is that I'm like, well, what would this species do? You know, this is a warlike species, or this is a peaceful species that is just concerned with the acquisition of as much material wealth as it can get. And I don't always make that explicit in my playthroughs, but it's something that I kind of do in the back of my head. Now, that doesn't always mean that you get optimal play, and sometimes when you want to learn a game, maybe you don't want to like go in character. That's fine as well. But these are just a few different things that I do to make sense of it. But I also think sometimes it's a bit of an advantage to just seeing what somebody else does. So Stone Gullet, I will obviously, you know that there's a VOD on my Twitch channel right now called Space Communists. It should be on my YouTube within the next 24 hours if you prefer to watch that. And just so you know, I do quite a bit of Crusader Kings as well. So my YouTube page is a bit of a mess, but if you want to get into Crusader Kings as well, it's probably this Paradox game that I'm most familiar with. And the YouTube channel, as long as you're willing to sort through all of the VODs, you should be able to find something sort of like, I mean, you already kind of know what my style is like, so if it works for you, hopefully you can get a thing or two out of that as well. Okay, perfect. Yeah, so Stone Gullet, we're on the same page. Anyways, guys, this is a really extended goodbye. I need to get to bed. It's I'm already about 45 minutes past where I intended to finish off. You have been wonderful to hang out with as always, and actually there's quite a few of you who are still hanging around. So let me just take a quick look and see who we can host tonight. It has been a while since I've hosted this man. No problem. Oh god, actually I got two guys. Nah, you know what? I like Kilgore a lot, and I kind of like his Oblivion playthrough. Kilgore is currently playing Oblivion on the GOG channel, so I'm gonna raid him. The other guy was playing Friday the 13th, and I don't like it that much, so... Hey, not a problem, Elsie. Thank you very much. So guys, it'd be great if you'd come along. Kilgore Trout is a fellow Canadian. He is an older gamer. He's somebody who... Yeah, no problem. Stone Gullet, I normally broadcast Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I should also let you know that Monday is the dedicated Grand Strategy Day, so if I'm casting on Wednesday and Friday, it may not necessarily be this. Love to have you anyway. Definitely check out. Also on my Twitter is when I'll announce whatever game that I'm playing. Mondays for sure, if you want to learn more Stellaris. I will be doing this for a very long time, Stellaris-wise. And then because I did a shorter cast tonight, I'll try and do another Stellaris stream, but I can't do any promises just because there's so much bloody stuff that I need to get through. But yeah, thank you, JT Bird, ACC. Anyways, guys, I will just say, obviously, if you guys want to see more Stellaris streams, just click on the game. I don't know a lot of Stellaris streamers, so I'm going to leave it to your judgment as to who you want to hang out with. I will encourage you guys to come along with the raid. I know Kilgore Trout very well. He's a bit of an older gamer, so a lot of these games are ones that he enjoyed playing when he was growing up. He's a member of the GOG stream team, which is a great stream team. You will notice down below I'm affiliated with GOG. I do get a little bit of revenue from those purchases. Thank you very much, Avante Romero. Appreciate the follow. He's a really great guy, and I do really like the GOG team. Pretty much everybody is on it, and they actually were kind enough to have me on their channel to do Alpha Centauri. So it means a lot if you guys come along for the raids. You are welcome to put "We're tired of system talk, heard this place was better" in chat because Kilgore does know me. I do encourage you to give him a chance because he's a lot of fun to watch, but also I understand that, you know, strategy doesn't imply that people want to see Elder Scrolls stuff. So I leave it to you whether or not you want to hang out, but I'm going to be hanging out there for at least a few minutes before I go to bed. So have a good one, everybody. Have a great one. Oh, thank you so much for saying that, Stone Gullet. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you hanging around. I'm going to stop this goodbye before I'm on for another half hour. Have a good one, guys. Hope to see you inside Kilgore's chat.